8 teams. Conference tournaments, Selection Sunday. The first 4 tips off last night. 3 seconds left in game 1, and this is what you got.
Seconds left, and here we go. This is where dreams are made.
They're going for it all.
Simpson, home run play, the deflection. Oh! Layup! 0.7 seconds left. Alabama State in front.
I have no idea how the tip came where it did. I have no idea how it was caught and put back up, how they did it in the amount of time that was remaining. But nonetheless, Alabama State gets the win last night against St. Francis. It was the turnovers that we discussed yesterday with Coach Madlock that ended up being the difference on that final possession to get the ball back. Full court pass. Ball tipped, ball received, ball put in. Hornets win. First NCAA tournament win for Alabama State. 4th team since 1985 to win an NCAA tournament game with 1 or fewer made free throws. They were 1 for 4 from the free throw line.
Ooh, feels like the last segment.
This game was not given to Alabama State by any stretch of the imagination. St. Francis shot 50% from the floor. Alabama State shot 43%. St. Francis hit 10 of 22 threes in this game. It's 46%. Alabama State was 9 of 29 from behind the three-point line. St. Francis 10 of 14 free throws. Alabama State 1 of 4. But they out-rebounded St. Francis. They forced 15 turnovers. 9 steals Alabama State had. And they're able to find a way to go get that win. TJ Madlock, 11 points. Coach's kid. We talked about him yesterday. Did it all. 11 points. He also had 7 rebounds. He had 2 assists. Amar Knox led the way, 16 points for the Hornets. What a gutsy win. Be able to hang in there. The defense on the second to last possession gets them that out of bound Hail Mary, if you will, for Alabama State to go get the win. Just what a way to start the NCAA tournament. I mean, you get this team that neither one people have very high expectations for. Competitive game, down to the wire, force a turnover, go full length of the court. Ball tipped, comes your way, you put it in, you get the win. Now Alabama State has to go from Dayton to Lexington, where they will play Auburn on Thursday, and will be a 31.5-point underdog.
Yay, welcome to the tourney.
Congrats. You did it.
Honestly, they'll have more tourney wins than some higher seeds.
It's fair.
Because someone's going to get upset on Thursday and Friday.
150 on CBS. Alabama State, the 16 seed. It's now 20 and 15. That's another in-state team with 20 wins, by the way. I think we're up to like 15. We'll take on the number 1 overall seed Auburn at 28 and 5. 31.5-point underdog. But that was a fun game. And I didn't get to watch it start to finish. We had baseball yesterday. And then had a flat tire that had to repair after baseball. That was a fun one.
Whew.
Thankfully, my friends at Royal going to take care of me today and had me all set last night, but did have to go get the spare on after the game. So stay loyal to Royal. 34-20 in the paint, Alabama State outscored St. Francis. 26 points to 10 points off turnovers. So that was back to what Coach Horton told us, or Coach Madlock told us that they were going to have to lean on. And it was kind of physicality and then turnovers. And then they got the points off those turnovers that they had to have to win their first ever NCAA tournament game. And what a way to start the tournament. What a way to get things going. A buzzer beater, a shot with the lowest percentages possible almost, or play with lowest percentage possible almost, to be able to go out there and get that win. And then we turned around and we had the exact opposite. We had what we usually get early in games, and North Carolina beat San Diego State 95-68.
Well, yeah, they deserve to be in.
And honestly, I kind of I'm not going to say I quit watching it because it was on, but I had some things to do around the house towards the end of this game, and I kind of tuned out. And when the game was over and I was kind of putting some notes together for the show, I was like, wow, San Diego State got to 68? Because if you'd have asked me with about 7 minutes left, I would have thought the score of this game would have been 95-48 at the rate it was going.
It felt
Game
like
47-23 at the half.
Not that they gave up, but it felt like they were woefully.
North Carolina took their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
So I ask you this game alone, just this game, is North Carolina vindicated?
People will say yes, but I don't think so. No.
I think the people that said no at first will still say no.
Yeah.
That's a 21-10 San Diego State team. It's not a 16 seed. That's an 11 seed that they just throttled. RJ Davis, 26 points in this game. John, he was 8 for 12 from the floor, 6 for 6 from the three-point line. The North Carolina Tar Heels shot 14 of 24 from three. They're 58% from behind the three-point line. They shot better from behind three than they did from the floor. By the way, they were 53% from the floor, which ain't bad.
Yeah, all right. That feels unfair.
21 of 24 free throws they hit. Jalen Withers, double-double, 10 and 10 yesterday. Ben Allen Lubin, 12 points. It was Seth Trimble got 16 off the bench. It was a rough day for San Diego State. They shot 39%. Out rebounded 39-28, and they couldn't find much, and there was not a lot of defense. And when RJ Davis is shooting like that, and that's going to facilitate other guys to get open looks because now you pay more attention to him. Ian Jackson goes 3 for 6 from three, and Jalen Withers goes 2 for 4 from three. I mean, those are the things that start taking place. But any team that shoots like that, if you give me a team that goes 14 to 24 from three in this tournament, I don't care, 16, 15, 13, 1, 2, 4, like you're probably winning.
It's almost unstoppable.
There's not a lot you're going to be able to do about that. It's like you go back to that Auburn-Duke game. I don't think big part of the game plan was a freshman to hit like 7 threes in that game. So sometimes when things are going that direction, there's just not a lot you can do. And North Carolina looked hot last night, but you have to ask the question now, are they now vindicated as getting in? What else do they have to do for people to say, you know what, they were right? Because I think the people that say no right now, they're not going to change their mind. They're not going to sit back and look at it and say, oh, okay, yeah, you were right. We were wrong. Now, the committee will sit there and tell you that.
Oh, of course, right.
Bubba Cunningham will sit there and tell you that.
Well, which Bubba?
With that extra 160 in his bank account.
Yeah, the AD or the committee member?
It's the same person. It is.
We sure?
All right, we got Seth Greenberg coming up in about 5 minutes. He'll talk tournament. Jay Bilas at 8. He'll talk tournament. John Pizzaria played football at Alabama. Now runs Pizza Pulls. We got a couple of cool stories. Going to sit down with us. He loves Alabama basketball. Probably talk some of that. Talk the hobby a little bit, getting back into it, how he started his business, and talk some Alabama football. He got some good Saban stories that he'll share with us. He'll be in studio with us at 9 a.m. You can find Pizza Pulls at fanaticslive.com and get signed up there to get going again. So now you look at this tournament moving forward. We get more tonight of the first four. I don't know if it can be more competitive or more entertaining than the first game last night, but we get Mount St. Mary's and American University, 16 and 16 seeds taking them on each other, both 22 and 12, by the way. And then we'll get Xavier in Texas. Texas has that capability of an individual that could potentially take over and kind of push you through, and Trey Johnson. I mean, he can go for 30, 35 any night, and probably going to need a little bit of him, if not a lot of him, to be able to get past Xavier in Dayton. So you get those two games, and then the actual tournament begins, the field of 64, that is, on 11:15 a.m. Thursday morning with the 9-seed Creighton Blue Jays taking on the Louisville Cardinals. The Battle of the Birds, right out of the gate.
Be some Angry Birds.
Angry Birds gets us going.
Oof.
There it is. That's on CBS. And then NCAA tournament the rest of the day, Thursday and Friday. Y'all know what that is. The lowest productive days for the American workforce of the full calendar year. How you plan on getting around it? What do you plan on doing for Thursday, Friday? Let us know. Is this North Carolina basketball team now vindicated for what they did last night? You feel like the committee now got it right. You can hit us up 800-239-9569, 800-239-9569. Text into the show 205-834-9450. Also today we'll hear from Kalen DeBoer, talk Alabama Spring. We will also today discuss a little bit more of what we hit on yesterday with this whole spring game, spring practice, other opponents coming to town. Because there's a part of it that I'm a little bit confused about, where certain people have gotten really excited about this. Certain people are really pumped up about the potential of this idea, which I find a little bit, backwards. when you think about kind of other things that are very similar that take place on an annual basis that we don't like. But we'll hit that. We'll talk about that a little bit. Butch Thompson gets his 300th win last night as the head coach of the Auburn baseball team. Not all at Auburn, by the way. And then we'll talk a little bit more college basketball as not only did we get Alabama State with the win, we had other in-state teams in action, and we have more in-state teams in action tonight. The NIT is going. And last night in the NIT, Jacksonville State made history. I'm sorry, John, but it was against your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, 81-64. A game that almost qualified for our final segment of the day. And a guy that I feel like we've mentioned his name 20, if not 30 times on the show this year, Jerron Pierre Jr., 11 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 10 from 3, 30 points last night for the Gamecocks. 30 points for JSU as they move on in the NIT. And by doing so, I don't think I would have believed this. I don't think I would have known this. Looking into some things about this game and looking about some things around this game, this was the first win versus a major conference opponent in Jacksonville State basketball history.
What?
They were 0-51.
Ain't no way.
They were 0-51 against major conference opponents. So you also get your first ever NIT win and your first ever NIT appearance, the first ever game that they appeared in. So what a night for the Jacksonville State Gamecocks as their season continues to impress. 23-12 now on the year. 81-64. They shot 52% from the floor. 15 of 30 from 3. Is the story of the postseason already being told?
Feels like it already.
Turnovers and threes. Is that going to be it? That might be what I look at for my bracket when I fill it out at some point in time before Thursday at 11:15. I'm not going to say today. I'm not going to say tomorrow. I usually put it off. We will do it as a family, though, so we got to get that done at some point. The kids get involved. They love it. Oh, yeah, they all love it.
Oh, they all do their own. Oh, just like you all do one bracket as a family? I was like,
no.
A little. Oh, okay.
We all do. We do the family bracket, and they stay on the kitchen counter, and obviously we update it as it goes. Everybody wants to know who's in the lead the entire time. We have to have that going, 100%. So a big win for Jacksonville State last night. A historic win, 41-30. They out-rebounded Georgia Tech. 26-14 outscored them in the paint. So just a massive win. So then now coming up tonight, the NIT gets going again. We have more teams in state going to be rolling out tonight. NIT action, UAB, St. Joseph, 6 o'clock on ESPN+. ESPN+ also at 6, Samford takes on George Mason. And then a little bit later at 7, you'll get North Alabama against Bradley. Now, Bradley 26-8. North Alabama 24-10. Bradley 13-3 at home. So Lions got a tough one in front of them, but you have 3 in-state teams that are going to the NIT tonight. So we change that thing to the ALIT with all the teams from Alabama. A-lit.
Sponsored by Alexander Shannara.
Wow. Probably could be.
Yeah.
Or Shannara Flooring. All right, so here's what we'll do. We'll take a break, come back. We'll talk to Seth Greenberg. Speaking of filling out brackets, John, you can win big here locally by filling out a bracket with us.
You're absolutely right. The $1 Million Bracket Challenge is back, ladies and gentlemen. Pick a perfect bracket, win $1 million. It's that simple. Pick 60 or more games correctly, and you can win $10,000. Plus, one local winner with the best bracket will score $250 gift card to Twin Peaks. For more information and to make your picks, go to jocksfm.com and click on the $1 Million Bracket tab. Good luck from everyone here at Jocks 94.5.
We know a little bit more about the path for Auburn. What will Seth Greenberg tell us about that? Also for Alabama, maybe without one of their star players to get going in this tournament. What does Seth Greenberg project for both of those teams? We'll ask him next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. Talking some college basketball early this morning. We will switch over to college football a little bit later, talk spring games, spring practice, spring opponents. We also will talk a little bit Alabama and their spring practice, how that's going. You'll hear from Kalen DeBoer a little bit later in the show. Seth Greenberg set to join us here in a moment to talk this NCAA tournament, which off to an incredible start with what we got from Alabama State last night. And you get more of the first four tonight with Mount St. Mary's and American at 5:40 on True TV, 8:10 after that on True TV. 2-11 seeds, Xavier and Texas going to go at it. Auburn now knows their first-round opponent as the number one overall seed. That opponent will be Alabama State. I don't know from the perspective of breaking that game down how much we'll do that. Auburn's a 31.5-point favorite. We don't need to spend a ton of time on what that matchup might look like. Bruce Pearl does have a little extra film now to be able to let his team watch and scout, but that's one that Auburn should be able to manage. What does the path look like for Auburn, though? Seth Greenberg of ESPN, College Game Day, joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline to give us his thoughts just on that. When there are a lot of people, Seth, in our neck of the woods, and I'm sure you'll be surprised to hear this, kind of thought Auburn got jobbed a little bit with their draw. Didn't like what it was, didn't like the other teams there, didn't feel like it was fair, so to speak. When you first saw the opponents in Auburn's region, was there multiple matchups or a specific matchup that you kind of cringed at and said, oh boy, that's one that the Tigers might want to try to avoid if at all possible to be able to march to the Final Four?
Yeah, I think kind of almost multiple. I mean, look, A&M beat them. That was obviously at A&M in a game after they won the conference regular season. And, look, they went out and celebrated. They weren't themselves. But the other thing that, Michigan and Michigan State, man, I mean, Michigan, they played those two big guys, 6'11", 7 foot. They put them in a big ball screen. Trey Donaldson, a little kind of, in a lot of ways, you would say conspiracy. Trey Donaldson playing against his old team, who understands the system and who has a toughness about him, would want to prove something. And then Michigan State. But, the number 2 seed is always going to be a really good team. So, look, you got to be good teams to win in the NCAA tournament. You got to be good teams to get to the Final Four. So everyone can kind of create a way of saying their bracket is tough. You can do that any which way you want. I mean, you can spin it any which way you want. In the end, Auburn's going to have to go out and play well. And I've been saying this on SportsCenter the last 2 days, and I really think it's important. We know who Jedi Broom is. We know who each and every position, who guys are. And here's the biggest question about Auburn, and it's real simple. Chad Baker-Mazzaro. He needs to straddle the line. And what I mean by straddling the line is, if he's behind the line, he's not aggressive enough. I thought in the SEC tournament he wasn't himself. He didn't play with force. He didn't play with aggression. He didn't play with a chip. Obviously, the Alabama game, he crossed the line. He's got to straddle the line. He's got to play with an edge. He's got to be a little bit chippy. He's just got to make sure he doesn't cross the line. And when he's chippy, this team is different. So a big thing in the tournament is making sure he stays on the court, but still remains and keeps his edge.
Man, Seth, I think a lot of Auburn fans would probably agree with you, but probably always honestly be nervous saying that, just thinking about what maybe going a step or two over that line could end up being. We go back to the tournament last year, and we've seen a couple instances this year. Can Bruce keep him there? And I think Bruce has done an amazing job managing him. Other people will tweet in, call into the show and say, what are you talking about? Look at all the things he's done. Well, I think it could be a lot worse. So, and I think you get a talented player out there that helps your team. Can Bruce kind of keep him there without going too far past that line and hurting his club?
I think if anyone can do it, it could be Bruce Pearl. He's one of the great motivators, communicators, connectors with young people I've ever been around. He has a gift of kind of keeping the carnival under control, per se. Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, yeah, he can do his best, but in the end, if something happens, the person that you control your controllables. And Chad Baker's got to control his own controllables. He's got to know where he is in that moment in time. And if Bruce sees him kind of going in the wrong direction, he's got to pull him out. But he's also got to say, when you go back in, I expect you to have that chip. I expect you to compete. I expect you to have an edge. Because Auburn is only good when they have an edge. If they don't have that edge, they're not as good. And then, look, they need Pettiford to play better than he did in the SEC tournament, and he will. I mean, that was a one-off. So, Miles Kelly's got to make some shots. But to me, Chad Baker is the key, because when he has that little bit of an edge, they feed off of that. They play through Janai, but the heart and soul in terms of the chip that Auburn plays with comes from Chad Baker-Mazara, in my opinion.
Seth Greenberg of ESPN joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking some college basketball. I'll ask you this question very simply, Seth. On Alabama going into the tournament, not just against Robert Morris, but in general, how differently do you view them with and without Grant Nelson?
Very differently. I mean, and they do have depth, and they have guys, but they're young depth, inexperienced depth that can step up and play. But look, Grant Nelson, he defends, he rebounds some. He's a matchup problem because he can put it on the floor. He runs the floor, and he's got experience. He's got Final Four experience. He's got a maturity about him. So you're going to replace him with a freshman. And all of a sudden, he's going to walk out there and, whether it's Robert Morris or, St. Mary's or whomever else they could move on and play against, it's going to be a new experience. And that's not easy. That's not easy. It's not a lot. It's a lot to put on a guy's plate. So I look at him very differently. Now, look, the backcourt, LeBaron Fallon is just, he reminds me of De'Aaron Fox a little bit when De'Aaron Fox was a freshman. Mark is playing at a high level. Youngblood is terrific. They need, if it comes as simple as this, if Grant isn't there, Jared Stevenson needs to be good. He can't be, good for 5 minutes. He's got to be good for a game. He's got to be good for the second game. He's got to be good throughout the tournament because we've seen him when he's good, Alabama's better. They're better. When he's good, he's knocking down shots. He's getting an offensive rebound. He's getting a deflection. He's engaged in the game. So I think, that's going to be the guy that has to step up if Grant can't play.
We're talking with Seth Greenberg on the Higginbotham Hotline NCAA tournament. Is Florida your favorite to win this tournament?
They're the best team in college basketball. I call them Noah's Ark. They got two everything. Yeah, they got 3 and 4 some. I mean, like Hanlockton's healthy now. They got to back up to Chinyalu. You think about the backcourt, they're bringing Denzel Aberdeen off the bench. It could be Will Richards. It could be the toughness of Elijah Martin. It could be the best, to me, the best guard in the country. And I say that. I understand the Alabama people might think it's Mark Sears, but Walter Clayton is the best guard in the country. Maybe not the numbers, but to me, he's the most dynamic guard in the country. I think he's a lottery pick. If you look at every aspect of their game, they got those 3 dynamic guards. They bring Aberdeen off. Then they got Houck and Condon, and those guys are just so skilled, so tough, terrific passers. I think they're the best team in the country. Now, can they get beat? Sure, they can get beat. Anyone can get beat. But I think if you look at their roster, and look how they built the roster, a bunch of mid-major transfers, which is an amazing thing. Walter Clayton, Iona, Will Richard, Belmont, Chinyalu. Well, it's not mid-major, but Washington State. They got guys, they had multi-year portal guys. And I say this all the time. You're going to go to the portal. If you go for a one and done, and they've got one of those in Elijah Martin, but they got their culture set with the other guys. If you're going to go to the portal, it's a rental if you have a team of one-year transfers. If you go to the portal and get multiple year transfers, you have a chance to have culture creators. You have a chance to have guys that have buy-in. And what you need buy-in for? Because you need buy-in if it's about winning. When you have a guy for 6 months, it's about the next 6 months and maybe having a chance to get to the league. When you have guys for multiple years, they feel the culture, and that's really important. And that's what Todd Golden's done, and he's done a really good job with it.
Seth, I hate to steer you away from the tournament, but I think we all believe that is a major part of the future of college basketball, especially when we hear Rick Pitino say he's not even recruiting high school kids anymore. Look at Janai Broome, look at Chaney Johnson here at Auburn. We've seen it as well. Hell, Mark Sears, you mentioned him. You could almost say the same about him and how he got to Alabama. No one's turning down Cooper Flagg. No one's turning down McDonald's All-Americans, but there's only a handful of those. How much of the future is this of college basketball? The guys with experience coming in that can give you multiple years.
I think it's a big part of it. Look, right now, the portal doesn't open for a couple of weeks. The portal's open, man. The portal's open. You're not dealing. You got to understand. You're not dealing with the players. You're not dealing with the parents.
Right.
You're dealing with the agents. You see all these announcements about guys putting their name in the portal. They're not from the players. They're from their agents. Those agents are saying, "All right, I'm open for business." That's exactly what is happening. Those agents, and a lot of those guys aren't certified agents, and they're what I would call the old school runners. So it is absolute. And some are really credible people, but But no, this is 100%. I mean, like, just go on X, go on Instagram. Every single day, there's 5, 10, 15, 20. So-and-so has decided to put his name in the portal. I mean, like, here's the deal. The portal isn't even open yet, but you know what? All these agents are negotiating right now. And you have to, because July 1, that revenue share comes in. So you want to get as many of these guys in the portal signed prior to that on the NIL side, so you can save your revenue share for either a late edition or the freshman.
We talk about it every day in here, Coach, when we're talking about more so college football. These guys are putting their names in the portal, and we'll say the portal's not open right now. That doesn't mean they're not going to put it out there so people know that they're going to go in and have a graphic for it. And I thought you said it well, and it kind of opened my eyes when you guys were talking about Cooper Flagg potentially playing in the ACC tournament, sitting at the desk in Nashville, and said he's got to go to his family, he's got to go to his coach, and then you started mentioning everybody else he's got to go to. He's got to go to his agent, he's got to go to his marketing people, he's got to go to his handlers, and you're like, yeah, it's a different time in college hoops right now. And it's I don't know if everybody grasps it fully, but that's sort of where we are. Really appreciate the time this morning. Always great stuff. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the tournament.
Yes, sir. There we go. Seth Greenberg joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Times aren't a-changing. Times just have changed, and it's what it is. It's very different, and you're seeing more and more of these basketball teams that are just being built by mid-major guys that are coming in that have that experience and understand how to manage things. You mix them in with, an All-American if you can get it, or a McDonald's All-American if you can get it, and you're off and running. Speaking of the All-Americans, the All-American team has been announced, and it is some good news for folks here in the state of Alabama. We'll share that with you on the other side of the break. But first, tell you about our friends at Train. Flu going around, but also pollen season. If you're like me and you have walked outside to a almost yellow vehicle the last couple of days, you know good and well it's here. Make your home healthier with Train's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters and 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Train.com. It's hard to stop a train. We'll talk that All-American team, let you know who made it next. Mac and Cube in the morning. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. 7:34 a.m. Wednesday, March 19th, right here on Jocks 94.5. A lot more to get to today as it pertains to the NCAA tournament, also the NIT, which a couple in-state teams going to get going tonight in the NIT. But I told you that I would give you the All-American teams in college basketball, which have been announced. And it's good news for Alabama and Auburn, as your first team AP All-Americans consist of Janai Broome, Cooper Flagg, Walter Clayton Jr., Mark Sears, and Braden Smith from
Hawaii.
Purdue.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, from school. I thought you meant.
I don't think a lot of people would have known that.
No.
It's okay. But you do get an Alabama player and an Auburn player, 3 SEC players as first-team All-Americans. I wanted to ask this question around the spring football idea that we discussed from Deion Sanders yesterday. Do you think this is a good idea, bad idea? 800-239-9569. Tweet into the show, at Mac and Cube. Let us know, do you like another team coming in to potentially play a spring game against your favorite team? If it's a lower level team, is this a good idea? Is this something you'd be interested in? Does this make sense? Tweet in at Mac and Cube. Let us know your thoughts there on just exactly how interested you might be if, let's just say, Alabama A&M were to go down and play Auburn for a spring game. Or you had, let's just say, Alabama State go play Auburn for a spring game. Jackson State comes over and plays Alabama. Are you into that? Do you like that? You happy about that? Does that get you going? There's a reason Auburn Athletics hand-selected Andrews Sports Medicine's Dr. Benson Immelman and Charles Pitts to serve as their team physicians. They provide highest quality sports medicine care in an effort to keep the Tigers student-athletes safe, healthy, competing at the highest level. If Andrews Sports Medicine is the choice for Auburn Athletics, there's no doubt they should be your family's number one choice for sports medicine and orthopedic care. Andrews Sports Medicine has 7 locations across central Alabama, from Birmingham, Coleman, Gardendale, Hoover, Pelham, and Trussville. Offer same-day, next-day appointments for acute sports injuries. Visit andrewsportsmedicine.com today to begin your journey of achieving victory over injury. Appreciate Norman Waldrop from Andrews Sports Medicine hopping on with us yesterday. All right, 800-239-9569. Do you like the idea of Deion Sanders saying, quote, I would like to practice against someone for a few days. Then you have the spring game, and I think the public will be satisfied with that. Do we think that's good? We think the public would be happy about that, because we've heard a lot of people just come in and say spring games are dumb anyway. We don't watch spring games. We don't like spring games. We don't care about those anyway. I, for one, think you can have real takeaways from spring games. I am the epitome of football nerd, so I don't really think it's applicable to me, because I'm going to watch a spring game no matter who's in it. Alabama versus Alabama, all of Alabama's second team, all of Auburn's third team. Like, I'm going to watch it because I want to see certain guys. I want to see what they can do. I want to see what they're capable of. Would this move the meter for you, John, if Tennessee Chattanooga came down to play Alabama?
That wouldn't, no. If we're going to do this spring game thing, I think it needs to be at least group of 5, if not power 4 power conferences head to head, because Alabama taking on Alabama State, or it doesn't have to be a local team like Samford or something, but taking on a lower opponent like that's not going to move it for me, no, because I get that in the fall. Like right now, when I'm wanting to see like a game, at least in theory normal spring game, they're playing players and talent of comparable level. They're playing their own offense and defense. So it's like, all right, if it feels comparable or so. But if I'm going to pay, which also this may be a whole nother discussion, if I'm going in to see this game, if it's, say, UT Chattanooga taking on Alabama, I assume these ain't regular season prices or regular ticket prices. If it's about spring game prices, 5, 10, 20, whatever bucks, I'd like to at least see something of a comparable or quality opponent.
Okay, but you nailed it. You nailed where I was going. By the way, Dodgers up on the Cubs 6-3, top of the 9th from Tokyo. We get these games. We already have this. And how many people do we hear every single year say, no more cupcakes? Which we don't reference them as cupcakes here. We reference them as lettuce games. We still have a lot of lettuce games in the fall. And how many people complain about him? How many people don't like him? And how many people tell us it's a waste of their time? But yet now everyone's telling me that this is going to be awesome in the spring when it means even less, when it matters even less, when guys are giving less effort and guys have less to play for. And if you did go out there and lose and look terrible, it literally makes no difference other than you maybe losing your position. Why is all of a sudden this is cool now? Because of what it might be compared to if you scrimmaging yourself? Okay. Maybe for a comparative sake, it might be a little bit better. But we already get that.
Yeah, I think
people, y'all hate it.
I think much people would rather, even if it is the UT Chattanooga, have that than a hot dog eating contest and a dunk contest.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Give me some live tackle football in some sense. But we already have these games, and you guys don't like them. Now, I can picture a day down the road where we have this great breakaway, this great shift that we talk about with the SEC and the Big Ten have gone and done their own thing, and they don't want to play with anybody else, and they've got their own ball, and they've gone home, and they've built a new home. They've built a whole new neighborhood. You're not allowed to play in it. You're not welcome here.
Moved up to the gated community. Okay.
Not just gated, but armed guard.
With a guard. Oh, yeah.
On top of the mountain.
Thumbprint to get in.
Exactly. Retina scanner with mobile security, not in a golf cart. And they've said, you're not allowed here anymore. So you only play Power 5 opponents throughout the course of the year, or maybe even you leave one. You say once a year, you're allowed to come up here and hang out with us. Then when we get to that point, down that road, you look at it from the spring game perspective and you say, all right, Mercer, come on down. Okay, Sanford, come check us out. We'll give you that check that you don't get in the fall anymore, which this was my whole pitch for why FCS should move to spring anyway. And then the one pay game could be their spring game in the fall, which would matter for those other teams. I don't really care how FCS uses that against or for their record because they don't use it now.
Correct.
How does Jackson State losing to Mississippi State affect their playoff hopes? Not at all. So if that were the case, maybe I can see where some of these people that are now standing up and pounding the table, this would be great. The fans will love this. We'd be so interested. No, you wouldn't. You're not interested in it now. And you get it multiple times a year. And you walk away from it now. But just because the weather's going to be nicer, all of a sudden you like the fact that one of these teams is going to come down here and play? I'm not buying it.
And you're hoping the weather's nicer. It's nicer around here. What about Iowa? They're about to have a snowstorm today and tomorrow.
Yeah, those are problems we don't have to deal with here.
Oh no,
that's the Big Ten's mountain. Correct, yes. We're on the other mountain.
We're on the backside of the mountain.
Right. We get the rain. We don't have the same kind of altitude that they have. We're not having to deal with that. Alex Page tweets in, would teams show more from a scheme standpoint in a spring game? Someone else, example, Colorado scrimmaging Syracuse. They're not putting a lot out there no matter what. It doesn't matter who he is. Because let's number one, when you in a spring setting, you're not out coaching people. Like when we went out and scrimmaged in the spring, we pretty much knew what the defense was going to be allowed to do. Now, Kirby Smart is the antithesis of this. Like he will literally unleash the hounds on every rep. And some other coaches do that also. But I would be willing to bet that offense knows, like, hey, man, fair game. Like corner crashes on the table. Double A gap blitz on the table. Like they can slant, they can twist, all of it. Like we knew that we were probably going to sit in a base 4-3 with very little movement the majority of the time. And they also knew, by the way, when we made a red call, what that meant. They knew what green and gold inside of our cadence meant. So you're not out scheming your own guys. And then if you're going to put anything on tape, it's not going to be something that is deep inside the X's and O's of what you're going to be capable of doing, either offensively or defensively. I would imagine that a defensive coordinator setting like that, you would probably hear base cover whatever you run the majority of the time. Base cover 2. Yeah, but what about just stay? We'll play some cloud coverage here. We're not. Just don't let them over the top. We're giving them the hitch. Good. They can take it all day. Because that's the one thing we're not worried about in the fall. So what we are worried about is our safety's not being fast enough to cover the slot. So by God, we're not rolling him down. He's staying back. Okay. Coach, run some more inside zone. That's actually the one play that we feel great about. So you know what we're not going to do today?
Let everyone see it.
Yeah. All right, it's just that's it. Greg Skipper tweets in, not interested in the spring game scenario Dion laid out. Too much poaching in today's game. It would need to be against a peer to draw interest from me. Well, if it was Syracuse, he would get that.
Right, yeah.
But I do. Yeah, Dion approaches a lot of this with an NFL brain, and that's what he's doing. He's saying, I can bring another group in. We can get good work from them. They're going to probably go a little bit harder. We're going to be able to run against a defense that doesn't know what's coming the whole time, so they're not anticipating certain things. They don't know the tendencies of what routes guys run well. And so we'll be able to get probably more efficient work, but I don't know if it would be cleaner work. Like the injury thing, I don't buy at all, because I think more guys are going to go past the whistle. I think more guys are going to take what I would reference as cheap shots. And you can say whatever you want. I don't think that's a dirty word, but you're going to hit guys a little bit late. If it means going a little bit low on somebody, if we're running outside zone and we got Nick Scorton on the edge, we're probably cutting him. Oh, not allowed to cut guys. Oh, man, I forgot. My bad, coach. I was just used to, it's a game. So I mean, in a game, I can do it in a game. That's what you go back to with there. We're not cutting today. I mean, you said it was a game. Like, I'm a cut in a game. So sorry, coach.
I could see people getting worried that if we get this, it turns into the Pro Bowl or the NBA All-Star game. I can see that, because even though people get injured all the time, watch one big kind of injury, whatever happened, and it's like, oh, well, now we just gotta take things easy.
Well, I'll tell you this. If it's St. Mary's, and I don't even know if they have a football team. I don't think they do. But if it's St. Mary's against Alabama, it's going to be the Pro Bowl and it's going to be the Super Bowl at the same damn time.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it's going to be. Because you tell me what Ty Simpson has to gain against St. Mary's secondary, specifically if he's already won the job. Like, what is Jackson Arnold proving against Norfolk State in the spring in a semi-controlled setting? Now, Norfolk State, all bets are off. That gas pedal is on the floor. Watch this. They just want that one clip. Like, you talk about guys poaching?
Yeah.
What about guys proving themselves to try to get poached? What about the guys who are sitting out there saying, don't nobody know about me? And if I can go rock Caden Proctor and put him in the lap of the quarterback, and I can get $5,000 in NIL, let's go. And they want that shot, and they're going to take that shot. And that's going to be a big part of the difference. But I was listening to a couple people on a podcast last night talk about how great this was being. I'm like, hold on. You're talking about something you already have, actually in a more meaningful sense. Mm-hmm. And you don't like it now. We'll continue that conversation and more college football after this. Mac and Cube in the morning. Alabama Pro Day today. Any results we get from that, we'll share. 800-239-9569. You want to get in on our conversation around spring games, what it should look like. Doesn't matter at all. It could matter for the work. It could matter for teams to get a little extra work, maybe get a little bit better against different opponents. You get tired of going against your own guys. I can tell you that. You don't like going against your own guys. It gets old. They know your tendencies. You know theirs. It ends up looking the same a lot of times. I mean, work is work. Full speed in pads helps no matter what. But against somebody else, without anticipation, with real differences that could take place on a different basis and some of that uncertainty that you have to sort of train your brain to be ready for, that can be a big help. It can be of assistance. It can help you a lot. Kind of like Game Day Men's Health can help you a lot. If you are lacking sleep, lacking energy, if you feel on edge, Game Day Men's Health wants to help you today. That could be effects of low testosterone. You still could be struggling with pounds you put on over the holidays. There are multiple weight loss plans available at Game Day Men's Health. Peptides in stock now to help you with multiple illnesses. Game Day Men's Health just wants to help you feel better. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com right now. Schedule a free consultation, which gets you a free testosterone test, free PSA test. You get your baseline health right there. And then they'll just give you options of how they can help you. Save 10% on any of those services, by the way, if you mention Mac and Cube and you walk in the front door. No charge consultation, free testosterone test, free PSA test at GameDayMen'sHealth.com when you sign up. Holistic approach to health and wellness. Minimal upfront cost for all of the programs that they offer. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today and schedule yours. All right, a couple of people said that this doesn't matter to them either way. A couple of folks tweeting in maybe what some of the differences would be. Godfather of Soul tweets in, if we're going to do this, just have 2 preseason games, Power 5. I do think that the problem that folks would have there would be you're able to view that in the same window of what counts towards how you get to the playoff. Now, we have automatic qualifiers, right? We get that. We know that. But what is used other than that? It's the human brain. So how much influence would come from those preseason games? You can sit there and tell yourself no, or it's not going to matter. But then when you get 2 teams that are down to the wire and you actually watched Alabama and North Carolina, who finished 5-7, put up 280 passing yards on Alabama's secondary and a half, you can't help but know that that's there. You can't help but know that it's there.
Right.
So when Florida State comes up to scrimmage Auburn in the spring, and they finished with 3 wins, but yet they ran for 199 and a half against Auburn, and Auburn and somebody else are on the brink of getting in, it's at least there. And I'm not saying it's a major factor or the only factor or the deciding factor, but it is going to be something that people have in their brains, and your brains are the ones that are allowing people to get in, stay out. So I don't know if the preseason window is something that would ever be real in college football, because that's a part of what is going to into the decision-making process of you finding out if you get in. Spring, we can put that. That was back then. It's not that much difference. But I do still think you have the possibility of that being real. Hold on. Didn't Alabama State go down there and throw the ball over them in the spring? Maybe that secondary is not very good.
How different do you think this could be if/when the transfer portal gets all sussed out and we have something uniform? More so if there's no longer a post-spring transfer window. How different do you think all this could be? Because I do see why people like North Carolina and Matt Rule, they're like, well, I don't want people seeing what my guys can do and potentially poach them. But if you're quote unquote stuck, or if you're there, if there's no post-spring transfer window, how much more likely do you think this is going to be, or could it make it happen more easily?
I think you make a good point. You bring up a good point, but there's one other problem in it. And it's the unfortunate part of, and this will actually go into a little bit of the portal windows, plural, but it's the powers that the players have right now. The reality is, in a lot of places, it's not just worrying about guys being seen to potentially go into the portal. The players don't want to play in them. There's a lot of guys that are just saying, I'm not doing that. Or when asked, not sure why, they're saying, no, we don't want to do that. We're out on that. So there are multiple factors that go into it. There are multiple ways of viewing it. Jolly tweets in, I love the exhibition-style spring games, yet how does that solve the issue in why coaches are going away from spring games in the first place? From the instance that John brought up of guys being potentially seen, scouted, and then poached, it doesn't solve any of those problems. Matter of fact, it makes them worse. You got to compete in a different way against an opponent that you haven't seen every day. And you can say it's a controlled environment, but you don't control that other side anymore, or at least not near as much of it. Jay Bilas talking tournament next. Eight a.m., hour number 2 underway, Wednesday, March 19th on Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. The app is in the App Store, iPhone, Android. You can go download that for free. Watch us live on YouTube. Search Jocks 945. Jay Bilas of ESPN joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline. Heard him on the majority of the calls for the SEC tournament. And Jay, we asked Richard Hendricks this question Monday, and I would love to just get your opinion on it. And that is a basketball team sort of resetting. You can probably imagine Auburn, the main team that I would be referencing here. No number one seed, has lost 3 or 4 going into the tournament. Did not look like themselves at times the last few regular season games after they wrapped up the regular season title or in the SEC tournament. How possible is that? What has to happen for that to take place when Auburn does begin this NCAA tournament?
Well, it may be that no number one seed has lost 3 or 4 going in, but I'm not sure a number one seed has played that kind of schedule going in either. Auburn, if you look back at the games they played at the end, they closed out the SEC championship, winning it by, I think, 2 or 3 games at Rupp Arena on a Saturday. I was actually there for that. And for anybody who's got, an SEC background, not many teams clinch a title on the Rupp floor. And then a couple days later, they got to go to College Station and play Texas A&M, who's really good. There's probably a little hangover effect there. And then getting beat by Alabama at home in an overtime game on a buzzer shot in that league, I don't think is cause for too much alarm. So I'm not particularly worried about Auburn. Sometimes or a lot of times actually, when a team loses in their conference tournament, as long as they don't get, blitzed in the first round or something. But when they lose in their conference tournament, it gives them the opportunity to go home. It gives them a little bit of an edge. And then they don't get beat up as much by playing that other game. Heck, that happened in North Carolina in 2005. I was sitting right there when they lost to Georgia Tech in the semifinals, and nobody's talking about them after that. And they went home, got to work a little bit, and came out with an edge and wound up winning the whole thing. And I think Auburn's certainly capable of that. But the problem they have is the problem that just about everybody else has, is some of the competition once they get to the Elite Eight, Final Four level, everybody can get beat there. But, Florida's the best team I've seen in the last month. They've put it together with their depth, their size, their guards. There's really not a hole there. And look, they can shoot it crappy and lose, but you're gonna have to play to beat them. They're the real thing.
Jay Bilas joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. So what is the recipe? Because there are a lot of people picking Florida. A lot of people agree with you that they are the best team heading into this tournament. What needs to be the recipe to be competitive, potentially pull the upset against these Florida Gators in this tournament?
Well, what team are you talking about?
Anybody. What does anybody have to sort of offset what Florida brings? What needs to be a strength, I guess, that you have to be able to knock the Gators out of this tournament?
Depth, size, shooting, and rebounding. If you don't have those things, they're going to beat you.
Just that.
And, yeah, I mean, your roster has to be good enough to hang with them. And there might be 6 rosters in the country that can do it. But if the tournament is a different animal. Like, it's not like some other sports. It's not like golf where you got to go in and beat everybody. You have to have, if you have a bad day in basketball in this tournament, you're subject to getting beat. And officiating can get you if you get an officiating crew that calls it a little bit tighter. Your best player, 2 of your best players get in foul trouble. Somebody turns an ankle. Like last year, I'll give you an example. Last year, Houston, we could have this talk last year and say, how do you beat Houston? Well, you better offensive rebound. You better do this. You better do that. And then their best player sprains his ankle, is out for the game against Duke in the first half. If he doesn't sprain his ankle, Houston's in the Final Four. Duke doesn't beat them if he's healthy, and NC State doesn't beat them if he's healthy. How do you account for that? How do you say, well, sprain somebody's ankle, go after the best player and sprain Cooper Flagg's best ankle, his ankle, and then you got a chance. Those kind of things happen in the tournament, and then when the game's over, nobody really seems to remember it.
Jay Bilas joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. We hear different phrases every year, Jay, of guard play wins tournaments, depth wins tournament, games have to have this in tournament. But with this particular field, is there something that looks like it's going to mean a little bit more? I say this because of watching Jacksonville State in the NIT last night. I think they were 6 of 12 from 3. Watching what North Carolina did from 3 last night. Like, is this going to be a perimeter tournament? Or is there another aspect of it that you see that you better be able to do this, not to just get past Florida or a couple of teams, but to get past the majority of the teams in this field?
I hear what you're saying. There's no definitive answer to this wins. So they'll say you have to have guards to win until you need a rebound. And then you have to have big guys. None of that stuff is true. And it's kind of like people say, you get to the tournament, it's all about matchups. All right, well, we know what the matchups are. Tell me who's going to win. You don't know. I mean, that's not the way this stuff works. Afterwards, you can sit and say, well, they dominated this matchup. Nobody knows really who's going to win these games. You have an idea, and I can sit here and tell you what each game is going to turn on, like where the key points in the game are going to be. based upon how the teams match up with each other, but you really don't know who's going to win. And one of the things I laugh about every year is, the tournament is a media event and it's a gambling event. So everybody wants to know who are going to be the upsets, because you have upsets in sports. So what are going to be the upsets? So you have all these guys like me sitting there saying, okay, this is the 12-5 and this is an upset possibility. Well, of course it's an upset possibility, but what you really need to know is, are you putting any money on it? Because UC San Diego over Michigan is like the trendiest pick. And people seem to forget that the Michigan players have ears and they're listening to this. So they're going to be a little sharper, and I don't think it is a great matchup. Can UC San Diego win? Yeah, they can. But Michigan's got to help them to win. And I actually think Michigan's going to win that game. But, that's why we play the games. We know somebody's going to get upset, but it's probably going to be what nobody's talking about. It'll probably be Lipscomb or Liberty or something like that, rather than all the ones people are talking about. It's kind of like, North Carolina didn't belong in the tournament. Then they blow out San Diego State. They were up by 40. And, they looked – last 10 games, they've been really good. But the only teams they lost to in the last 10 were Duke twice. So they've been really good and much better than they were earlier in the season. But they have pride and they have ears and they hear this stuff, and it sharpens their preparation, I believe.
I know the UC San Diego's got the Tyler McGee kid with like 295 threes this year, I think. So if he gets going, anything can happen. Is there the other thing we've talked about is, it's funny that Greg's on here today. You missed his rant earlier in the week on people who all of a sudden know about all these teams once the tournament starts. It was a little bit in line with what you were just saying there. Is there a region that stands out as that much more difficult than the others? Because I can sit here and dissect all these, and then I start thinking to myself, well, this one looks more difficult than the others. Well, that one, like everybody says, Florida's got a cakewalk, and I look at all the teams that won their conference tournaments. I don't want to run into teams that are playing good tournament basketball at this point in time, and I think they have more than anybody else in their region. So is there one that sticks out as more difficult, that much less difficult to you than the others?
It's not. It's all about sort of an individual team's path. I mean, I do think that the West region is really difficult, but Florida doesn't have to play everybody.
Sure.
Like you can say, hey, boy, UConn and Oklahoma, they only have to play one of those teams. They don't play them both. And somebody's going to fall down in the region. Maybe Memphis gets beat or Maryland gets beat or something, or Texas A&M. Who knows? Somebody might get clipped in that. But sometimes these tough regions can open up. Like NC State made it to the Final Four last year, but people tend to forget that one of the reasons they made it, I mean, they pulled an upset over Marquette to start, but they had to play Oakland in the second round. If they had to play Kentucky, maybe their ride wouldn't have lasted as long. So a lot of times for a double-digit seed, you have to, if you're going to make a Final Four, somebody's got to fall down ahead of you. And so that can happen in a region, and things can blow up. But most of the regions are pretty balanced, I think. But I think Duke. If I could pick any path for a one seed, I would have picked Duke's.
Let's talk about individual paths. Jay Bilas joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. When you look at what's in front of Alabama, and obviously the Grant Nelson situation becomes a part of that conversation, who do you view as problematic on Nate Oates' way to a potential Final Four?
Wisconsin, if they get there, because they can, they're big and strong and they can slow the game down a little bit. And I think it's easier to slow a game down than speed one up. But I think Alabama, if healthy, they're going to wind up in the Elite Eight. One of the things that I like about some of the SEC teams, not all of them, but they get fresh meat now. They've been playing each other for the last 2 months, and it's been fist fight after fist fight. And I think they're actually better. Some of the teams are significantly better and more prepared than some of the teams they're going to be playing. So you put some of these teams in other leagues, they would have dominated the leagues. And you're going to take a punch in the SEC. What you kind of don't get is if you looked at the Southeastern Conference, kind of like the NBA, nobody panics when the Oklahoma City Thunder loses a game. It's not that big of a deal, and it's not that big of a deal in college. I think we have a football mentality a little bit now about basketball, which they're two different sports. If football played as many games as basketball, if they played 40 games, their records would look the same. But they don't. So, occasionally you can have an undefeated team. In basketball, if basketball played 16 games, you'd have a lot of undefeated teams.
Absolutely. What about Auburn's path, Jay? Jay Bilas with us on the Higginbotham hotline. We know A&M. We'll take A&M out of it because we saw that game very recently. Maybe even take Ole Miss out because we've seen it. But do you see a team or two on the way that most people would not be concerned about when rooting for Auburn in this tournament they should probably maybe have their full attention to?
Well, I mean, the fans can be concerned about or ignore whatever they want. It's not going to affect the outcome. But Creighton's a good team. And so that could certainly be a difficult game for Auburn because they've got some size and they've got a couple of good guards and they can shoot it. But Auburn's better than them. I just think that Auburn would, if they play to their level and they don't have kind of one of these out-of-body experiences like Chad Baker-Mazara had last year against Yale, they're better than everybody in their region, significantly. So I think it's more about how they approach it, how they play. As long as everybody's healthy and as long as everybody stays together, they're the best team. So there's not one team in that region I think is better, should beat them or boy, this matchup really gives you pause. The only one is Texas A&M because they are such a wild card. If Texas A&M shoots it well, and they did in the SEC tournament, I mean, you turned around, Anderson Garcia made like 3 or 4 threes or something. Like, what? You had a couple guys that made 14 threes on the year, and they made multiple threes in one of their games. I did so many games, I'm forgetting which one it was. But they can really rebound, and they're really good defensively, and they can turn the game into a chaotic game. But the fact that Auburn lost to them last time is a little more incentive, and I think it'll make them a little sharper going into the game.
Jay, thank you so much for hopping on. Great information, great insight for a lot of teams in the tournament, the actual tournament field in general. We appreciate you and enjoy the rest of March.
Thank you.
Jay Bilas, ESPN, joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services. So how do we view the paths for Alabama and Auburn? Have you filled your brackets out yet? How far do you have the Crimson Tide or the Tigers going in this NCAA tournament? What would be satisfactory for you for either team? 800-239-9569. Your realistic expectation for where Alabama ends up, where Auburn ends up. We'll take your calls on that. Text into the show as well, 205-834-9450, 205-834-9450, or tweet in at Mac and Cube. What will you be satisfied with from an Auburn or Alabama perspective in this NCAA tournament? We'll discuss it next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:18 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Talk a little more college basketball here. Then we'll go back to some college football. We'll hear from Kalen DeBoer on Alabama spring in our next segment. But I wanted just to discuss the path here for both. Just discuss the path here. That kind of became one word of Alabama and Auburn in the NCAA tournament. Alabama knows that they're going to get Robert Morris, the 15 seed. This should not be an issue for the Crimson Tide. And if you're kind of wondering why or what that is, what that looks like, maybe don't be so confident. Why are you so confident? It's a game that Alabama should win and should win handily. It's a basketball team that is just not as good. 26-8, yes, but Alabama's 23.5-point favorite. You should be fine. I agree with Jay Bilas on Wisconsin, a team that blew through the Big Ten tournament. BYU has 353 threes on the year. That is fifth most in college basketball. I think that team also, if you don't watch a lot of BYU sports basketball, like it's kind of what people are saying about Auburn this year. They're grown up. And physically, they give you a little something different. And I don't think it's just basketball. I think it's also football. It's an advantage that they have that they utilize. Now, St. Mary's plays good basketball. Are they as athletic as Alabama? No. Can they match up from a size perspective? I don't think so. But if you're going to talk about a team that's sound, that knows how to play their style and plays together, I think St. Mary's can do that. So could they be a headache? Yes, I think so. And like we've talked about with Richard Hendricks for weeks, if the same things start to show up for Alabama, turnovers, breakdowns on defense, and not rebounding as well, then that's a game that could be problematic. And then obviously, I mean, you just think about Duke coming out of the top of the bracket. You'd catch them a little bit later, but one that could be a little bit scary. Now you go over to the South and you look at Auburn's path. Louisville, Creighton. I am not one that's going to buy into the Louisville playing in Lexington and that being a massive advantage. Tell me if I'm crazy here, John. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
There is a part of me, and this is a complete, I conjured this up myself. So this could be totally asinine. I have this feeling that Kentucky fans would not want to see Louisville fans dominate their arena. I think Kentucky fans would take it personal if that became a home game for Louisville in the second round of the tournament. Now, are there still going to be some Louisville fans that buy up tickets and find tickets and get tickets? But is it crazy to think that a lot of Kentucky fans who have known this was coming and are basketball diehards anyway have gobbled up a lot of these tickets before they knew who was going to play and will say, yeah, we'll go to that and not cheer for anybody just to not have someone cheering for that team?
You're not crazy in that, because I do think that Kentucky fans are, in hindsight, delusional, but in foresight, confident enough to assume that, well, we should be a top seed in the tournament, and therefore we should be playing in our home stadium and region, whatever, these early rounds. So let's go ahead and snag these tickets. So they probably got them, I would guess, maybe May, June of last year, and already had them, snatched up, assuming that they would get it. Now, the way the season played out, okay, fine. Maybe someone looking to sell or whatever. Now it's like, oh, Louisville's coming? Nah, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to watch those guys lose.
I also think there's going to be a good Auburn contingent there.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of Auburn fans here in Birmingham that are going. So I don't think that this is going to be. By the way, Auburn just won there against a Kentucky home crowd, not a wannabe Louisville home crowd. They just won in that building against BBN, who was loud, who showed up. I was at the game. It got good for a few minutes. It wasn't good for a lot of it because it got pretty comfortable for Auburn later.
Now, one thing for Auburn, everyone's going to be cheering against them, not because Louisville fans are going to take over, but because, one, they're the number one seed, and two, everyone there, no matter what, wants to see the upset. So if you are the favorite in that, everyone always cheers against you.
Unless it's Auburn Louisville in the second round.
At that point, yeah, honestly, it might be silent.
Some of it.
Yeah.
I just don't view it as near as big of a problem as a lot of other people do. It doesn't mean Louisville can't get hot and can't find a way to win that game. But so you go down, like Jay Bilas brought up Michigan and UC San Diego. This Tyler McGee kid for UC San Diego, he's almost 300 threes this year. I mean, we've seen what A&M can do. And then we saw what Yale did last year. So Yale back in, they're going to get A&M round one. That's a team that shoots 40% from behind the three-point line. They have the 9th highest three-point percentage in Division I. So Yale can't get hot and go give Texas A&M headaches, or even if they would advance a few rounds.
Should we hit up Sweater Guy, see if he's making his plans?
Maybe. Forgot about that guy. We did get him on the show last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Do we have that guy's number?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know.
I have no idea. I totally forgot what his name was.
Yeah.
I totally forgot how I got in touch with him. Chad Almy, Yale Sweater Guy.
Is that what he saved as in your phone?
That's what he's in my phone as. I'm going to shoot him a text right now. All right. So I don't look at Auburn's path as totally different than a lot of the others. Who go down the list of teams that you look at and say, man, and here's I guess the question you have to be very fair with and ask. Are you bringing up certain teams in that region because you're nervous about how Auburn's been playing or about how that team has played? Because I think it's a little bit more of the primary there that Auburn fans are a little concerned about. Man, we hadn't looked great the last couple weeks. We have not been ourselves, not been mid-season form, so to speak. And that's a little bit concerning against a team like Creighton or a team like Michigan or an A&M team again. Now, it wouldn't be a home for them. So that's one that I look at and I say, I mean, Bryant can score. Bryant's got pace. They get up and down the floor. Raphael Pinzone averages 19 points a game. So, I mean, maybe that's one that can give you some headaches. Marquette, solid team. We know Michigan State and Izzo, tournament tested, what he's going to be. Physically, that will be one of the most difficult outs in this tournament. But what's the expectation? My expectation will be for both to be in the Elite Eight. Like Jay Bilas just said, if Alabama's healthy, they're in the Elite Eight. Then you kind of reset, see the bracket, see what lies ahead of you. Can you make a Final Four push? Can you make a national championship game or championship push after that? Both teams, I think, capable. I think some things are going to have to go their way. Just the reality. I mean, timing, opponents, all of that. Injuries are going to be a massive part of it. Health. Does Auburn show up against Alabama State and look a lot healthier, look a lot more fresh? Did that break really do something? That's something that I think that I'll watch. That's something I think that I'll be interested in. So both teams' expectations, I think, are high, and they should be because they had good seasons. They got good teams. I don't think anybody's sitting back just saying national championship or bust for either. But kind of part of it. Casey Ray tweets into the show, at Mac and Cube, how much did you pay Jay Bilas to say Auburn is better than everybody? Because to hear that man commentate Auburn games, you would think he absolutely hates them. I don't think we have enough money to move the meter for Jay, to be honest with you, here at this station. But maybe some other places they do. We appreciate Jay taking some time to join us. It was a good visit with Jay Bilas talking some college basketball.
Even if he does hate Auburn, apparently. But only when calling.
Or
them.
think they're better than everybody else.
Yeah. Maybe he only hates them while he's calling.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Potentially both. Kind of like Gusty Goulas. If you want to own both houses, lake house, beach house, ain't a house here, he can help you. The real estate guru in Birmingham, Alabama. Why? Brokered by EXP Realty. Serve more than 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. And since 2012, the Gusty Goulas Group has been recognized both nationally and locally as greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in home sold. Over 835-star Google reviews. Go search Gusty Goulas Group now and see what people are saying. Call 205-542-1996. That's 205-542-1996. Or go to GustyGoulasGroup.com. I didn't even have to look at my phone. I had a buddy text me the other day, said, hey, I got some real estate stuff going on. I need to get in touch with the guy, Gusty. I heard you on the show. Bang, bang, bang. 205-542-1996. Right there. I knew it right away. Gave it to him. Call him. See what Gusty can do for you. They'll get him set up. They've helped family members of mine. They can help you and family members of yours. Gusty Goulas Group. Go to GustyGoulasGroup.com today and start packing. When we come back, I have one more question about this year's college basketball tournament, and it has to do with the broadcast teams. I'll tell you what the question is and maybe why you might find it interesting right after this on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Phones will be open here, 800-239-9569. You want to get in on the Higginbotham hotline. Talk a little bit more NCAA tournament, then we'll go to college football. College baseball rankings are out. D1 baseball, top 25 has Tennessee, LSU, Arkansas, Georgia as their top four.
Mm-hmm.
Texas comes in at 8. Oklahoma comes in at 10. Bama's at 12. Florida's at 13. Ole Miss is at 18. Auburn is at 20. Vandy's at 22. Hiya. Troy, by the way, 25. Feels like that'll be a similar gauntlet in college baseball that we saw in college basketball. And speaking of college basketball, as we know, it'll air on the CBS family of networks. And as they do each and every year, they give you a graphic or a press release with the broadcast team and who's going to be calling the games and who's going to be on the call for a lot of these games. So I wanted to ask you this question, John. If Damien wants to come in and help with this, he can give us his thoughts, although I don't think there's any chance he saw any of these people play. If you are drafting a team to compete in this tournament, we will draft in order which broadcaster to play in college are you taking first? From the CBS, TBS, TNT, True TV network of game announcers, not studio. Game announcers, which actually the studio would be a tough.
That would, yeah.
I'm going Shaq. Pretty easy. Number one, we had the conversation about Shaq earlier in the week and how one of my son's friends told him that he was trash. We pulled up the statistical categories that he has finished top 15 in all time, a couple of top 10. 4 different places have retired his number. He has a gold medal. He has multiple championships. He has 3 finals MVPs. So I think we put that to rest. But for those of you that don't see it right now, you've got Brendan Haywood. You've got Steve Smith. You've got Jalen Rose. You've got, did John Rothstein actually play college basketball? We're going to pretend like he did. Jim Jackson, Grant Hill. Do we count Stan Van Gundy? He probably ran the point somewhere, didn't he?
You're right.
And Jalen Rose. Now you're taking the college player here.
Right.
Not that it really matters that much. I mean, who was totally different in college that wasn't? So we'll start with you, John. You get the first choice of CBS, TNT, True TV broadcaster to be on your college basketball team this year for this year's tournament. Now you can, if you want, go further into, exactly what you want, what they did in the NCAA tournament. By the way, Stan Van Gundy played basketball for his dad, Bill Van Gundy, at SUNY Brockport. So in other words, he was in the bad box score of the day a couple of times. We know that. I don't have career numbers for him, by the way.
I feel like I'm going Grant Hill.
Grant Hill, if you like Damien and have no idea who he is.
No.
Because you never saw him play.
Yeah, I never saw him play. But he was
what he was capable of.
I didn't see him in college. I saw him for the Phoenix Suns later in his career.
Way down the road.
Okay, all right. Well,
no, I didn't see the Pistons days. Sorry.
Grant Hill was a slasher, a scorer, one of the best wings to come out of college in a long time. He got comparisons to Jordan when he was coming out. I did not think that was real. Let me just say this. Grant Hill didn't have the edge that a guy like MJ did or Kobe did. He wasn't that kind of guy. But a great player, had range, could get to the bucket, could jump out of the gym, and had a nice game, very smooth game. He's a good player. Now, also keep in mind, in college, he was good for the Pistons for a while.
Yes.
But in college, he had a couple other NBA guys with him all the time.
Yeah, that did help.
So,
and a dream teamer.
Fair. I don't know if Leitner actually got in a game in that Olympics.
He won a medal.
He's
he was
medalist.
on the poster I had in my bedroom.
He's on cover Sports Illustrated. I get it.
Therefore is a dream teamer.
I'm just asking. I didn't see the tape where he actually competed in said Olympics. Was absolutely there. All right, so Grant Hill off the board, Damien. Who are you taking as on your tournament team out of what's left from the CBS, True TV, TNT broadcasters?
I'd go Jalen Rose.
Should have known. He probably had the best supporting cast of any guys on here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Hayward's might have been pretty good. I have to go back and look at Hayward's roster. All right, so Jalen Rose, flexible. He ran the point for Michigan a lot of time, but obviously could go score on his own. Had good length, so he could help you rebounding. Defensively, gave you a different matchup. But I'm kind of glad you guys went the direction that you went because you missed the sleeper in this.
Stan Van Gundy?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think there was a 3-point line when he played, so I think
he might be sleeping right now.
I think the sleeper in this is Jim Jackson.
I couldn't take him number 1 overall. I couldn't. But he was probably like number 2 or 3 on the board. Yeah.
Jim Jackson was legit in college.
Very good.
3 years at Ohio State, 16.1, 18.9, 22.4.
Oh.
First team All-American his senior year. Also, with that 22.4, averaged 6.8 rebounds per game. So he's 22-7 in the Big Ten his senior year. He was a more mobile, big forward for that time. And that was a time when you had, we've talked about guys like Corliss Williamson and Robert Tractor Taylor, who was probably more a 5 than a 4. But Jackson could play the 4, maybe the 3. Sometimes he could move, but he was physical, man. Like he liked to bang. He'd go down on the block, not afraid at all. I just think he had more of an all-around game for a bigger physical player than people want to give him credit for. I mean, he averaged 19 a game for his career in college, 3 years.
His numbers retired at Ohio State.
Dude could play.
Yeah.
He could absolutely play. 4th pick overall, by the way.
What year was he drafted?
1992.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think he went to a really bad Mavericks team and got out a little bit too late. Had a decent NBA career, but not. I mean, he was a dominant college player. Dominant college player.
Played for 12 teams. So he did bounce around a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what, though? That's 12 different logos on checks.
Correct. He might have an umbrella. Or not umbrellas, rainbow.
I think he's good.
Yeah.
All right, so if we continue to go there, I mean, we're going to run out of players here in a moment. But who would you go next, Sean? Who do you want on your tournament team this year from the CBS broadcast crews? I think this is an easy selection.
I mean, Jim Jackson would have been my next one. I was hoping not, but if he's still there, I'm just going to take him, Brendan Haywood.
Okay. See, I would have gone Steve Smith here. But Brendan Haywood, we've talked about him. Like, he was a guy that
I want size now.
People in tournament talked a lot about.
Yeah.
Talked a lot about. Dominant big, especially. I think his tournament run was actually really good.
Yeah.
With what he did in the tournament. And Damien, you don't even know who Steve Smith is.
Did he play for the Rockets at one point in time?
He did not. We're not for the Panthers. That's not who we're talking about here.
Yeah. No, did he play for Did he play for the Houston Rockets at one time?
I believe so.
Okay. I don't really. Yeah, I'm about to say the name sounds familiar, but
it's too common first and last name.
Yeah,
that could be why. No, Heat, Hawks, Blazers, Spurs, Hornets, Bobcats, and Heat again when he retired.
Oh, damn. He bounced around too.
Yeah.
Journeyman.
Well, that was you were kind of one or the other back in the day. I feel like
he's got a ring though. 03 in Spurs.
Oh, okay. Where do you go to college?
Michigan State, where his numbers retired.
In 4 years at Michigan State, 10.7, 17.7, 20.2, and 25.1. Also averaged over 6 rebounds a game 3 of those years.
The following people were drafted ahead of him: Larry Johnson, Kenny Anderson, Dikembe Mutombo.
And Larry Johnson was the poster child for the guy that we just described Jim Jackson as. The bigger, more agile, physical player, but actually could get outside. And that's kind of what Steve Smith was also. Dude could play. He could play. But Brendan Haywood, if you wanted to go big there, I don't think you're going wrong with him. I think you're going to be okay. I just think I'm going to be in some trouble because if he went Haywood, you would go Steve Smith even without knowing him, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I got Van Gundy.
You got Hummel there.
Did Robbie Hummel play college basketball?
Yeah.
Where did he play?
Thought so. Purdue?
Oh, he's a Big Ten guy. So, yeah, he's very fundamentally sound.
What about Jim Spanarkel? He got game?
Pass.
I
don't.
Doesn't strike you as one.
He doesn't appear though. I mean, I could take Gene Sarator. Maybe he played in college somewhere. I mean,
he'll know the rules. He'll know the rules.
We're gonna those late game situations.
Exactly.
He's gonna be able to help us.
He knows the management.
Oh, let's get some Jim Spanarkel numbers. Here we go. All right, Jim Spanarkel played at Duke.
Oh, okay.
How do we not know that?
Blue blood.
Drafted 16th overall in 79. 13 points a game, 19 points a game, 20.8 points a game, and 15.9 points per game. He could get it back in the day. Go, Jim. You get it. How big was he? Jim Spanarkel, 6'5", 190. I feel like your liability defensively there, Jim.
It's also kind of why he's
the lateral quickness is not going to be what we need it to be. It's all right. He'll get some buckets somehow.
Exactly. He's a gym rat.
All right, so I saw that pop up, and I thought it'd be fun. Just kind of like the people that we're going to hear calling the game, the people that we're going to hear talking about these teams, like who would we want on our team and who would we draft. So you would go Steve Smith, which would be a great pick. I would go Jim Spanarkel. And then we're out. I don't think we go any further. That's our team. Now we just take whatever's left over from our NIL tank and just get some guys from the lower levels of college basketball.
What are we, the Dallas Mavericks only have like 2-3 players available?
All right, that's all we got.
Yeah.
Oof.
We'll get some walk-ons out there. I mean, those guys should be good enough to carry the team.
Exactly.
So I don't feel like we should. Man, Brendan Haywood, 7 foot 268.
Oh, he was a big one.
Last 3 years, 12 points a game, 13 points a game, 12 points a game. Averaged 3.6 blocks per game his senior year. Yeah, senior year. Played 4 years. Wow. Did not expect that. 7.3 and 7.5, 6.9 boards per game, 3 years. Yeah, he was a force. He shot 70% from the floor his junior year.
Oh, yeah. All dunks.
70%.
Dunks and mid-range.
Stephen Heiss tweets in, I'll take Mitch Kupchak. Is he calling games? I didn't see his name on there. I don't think he's in there.
I don't think so.
He's not on the graphic, at least. And if he's not on the graphic, he's not real.
He's not there.
Maybe Nessler's got a game. I don't know. I hadn't seen the tape.
He strikes me as like a Steve Nash type.
Tom McCarthy? Dan Bonner.
I know there's a Matt Bonner.
Have we seen the tape on Dan Bonner? What he might be able to help our team with?
A little depth.
Yeah.
Think you can get something at Evan Washburn?
Probably sneaky athletic.
Dan Bonner gave us 8.3 a game at Virginia his senior year.
Okay.
In 74, 75.
You got to have those role players.
Absolutely.
As versatile as Kevin Harlan is, I feel like he could hoop or at least do something.
You would like to think so.
If he gets excited, he kind of gives you that Chad Baker-Mazara edge a little bit.
Ooh, yeah. We need it. We're going to need it playing with 3. I guess. I don't know.
Robbie Hummel does have a lot of tournament experience. His time at Purdue, they were a 6, a 5, a 4, then a 3 seed.
Oh, okay.
Never made it past Sweet 16, though.
Oh,
what did he score, though? Like, what were his numbers?
I didn't look at that. Probably not much.
They got better, though.
Yeah.
Got better year after year.
Yeah, they improved seeding-wise every single year.
That's good.
Team player.
Okay. All right. So there you go. Your CBS, TNT, True TV broadcast crews. Who would you draft first? Who would you want playing for you? As we ran through that, and you'll hear those guys on the game. Sarator went to Kent State. It doesn't say if he participated in a sport or not.
So he was there with Saban.
Maybe he started reffing before. Like I saw this video on Instagram the other day. This like 9-year-old umpire, and he's like, calling people out.
Starting early.
He's like, yeah,
Like behind the plate?
No, he's at first.
I was like, okay.
I'm just like, when do we get to him making a bad call and the coach going out to have a conversation with him? Just looking down on him from 3 feet above. And how does he even respond to that? Did he just say, nope, go talk to the home plate umpire? I don't do that. That's not a real thing here. You can go somewhere else with that. But I mean, he was into it. And then like he punched him. He had it down.
Okay.
Had a uniform and everything.
I guess start him young.
There you go. All right, so you'll hear from Kalen DeBoer talk some Alabama football next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 8:50, right here on Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. You can watch on YouTube each and every morning live. Just search WJOX or 945 on YouTube, and you'll find us there. We're live every morning. You can watch the show, hang out with us as we get your day started. We're going to flip over to some college football here in just a moment. But before we completely go to spring practice, hear from Kalen DeBoer, talk about some of the things happening within Alabama's practice. We don't want to get too far away from our brackets, John.
Not at all. You've got a little over 24 hours left to fill out your $1 million bracket because the $1 million bracket challenge is back. It's that simple. Pick a perfect bracket, win $1 million. Pick 60 or more games correctly, you win $10,000. Plus one local winner with the best bracket will score a $250 gift card to Twin Peaks. For more information and to pick your bracket, go to jocksfm.com and click on the $1 million bracket tab. Good luck. From Jocks 94.5.
A couple tweets coming in on our last topic with that broadcast crew, who we would take, who we would pick to be on our tournament team this year. Michael Kirby tweets in, is Avery Johnson on the broadcast list this year? He's not on the graphic.
No.
So I'm assuming he's not. He didn't make the cut. He's not going to be there. Alex Page tweets in, Jim Jackson, Lawrence Funderburk, dynamic duo for Ohio State. So a couple guys tweeting in. William Christopher tweets in, Bill Raftery was a heck of a player for Dr. Naismith.
Okay. Hadn't seen the reel to reel on. I don't even know if it's tape.
The actual film.
Yeah.
But that hasn't been something
the
that
Betamax,
paid attention to. Sorry. Don't really know. Let's go to college football. Alabama's spring practice back underway. Kalen DeBoer recapping practice yesterday.
Very good practice. Just a lot of work from beginning to end. Second day with shells on, and so we just saw the physicality ramp up. Good energy coming off the spring break. You always I've seen times over the course of the years where there's a lull. Didn't feel like that was the case at all. Guys were ready to go, and I think having 3 practices before we took the break got their minds on football. I think that's always a big deal. Just keeps them thinking about what they should be working on, focusing on, the priorities, and they come back ready to go.
So you'll see some different things coming out of Alabama practices as we move forward, because you heard Coach DeBoer say second day in shells. So now you'll get shoulder pads, helmets, then you'll start getting the full pads, and that's when I think guys really begin to separate. You'll see specifically up front on both sides of the ball, some guys maybe pretend to start sticking out as winning positions, having positions under control. But that's tough to do, number one, your first couple of days of spring, specifically now with roster turnover, because that's going to be more install, more instruction, just more introduction to what you do, how you do it, where you actually go on the practice field. Then once you get guys acclimated, you start to get a little bit more physical. You start to get into the grind, and that's when guys are going to separate themselves. I know some of the younger receivers have been having good practices there at Alabama. Special teams, not something we talk about a lot here on this show. We're going to talk about it in the next hour with John Pizzari, who's a former Alabama punter, going to be in studio with us. That apparently has been a big emphasis point down in Tuscaloosa, because even though we don't hit it a lot, you got a couple of guys that are going to be gone. You're going to have a new starter at kicker, punter, and long snapper, and that can make a difference. It can cost you a game. It can win you games. So something that Kalen DeBoer and his staff having a little bit more emphasis on through spring practice this time around as opposed to last time around. I don't think there's true separation at quarterback just yet. I think they want reps to be distributed sort of evenly, and you want a lot of different guys to get those reps in different situations. Ty Simpson will get the most, but you want to see, and I think too, when you distribute these reps like this in spring right now, it's not always necessarily to determine who's going to be a starter. It's not to say, okay, can Keelan Russell come in and start for us right now? But you want to know if Keelan Russell is going to be able to help you this year. Is he going to be a viable backup at any point in time? Could he be a situational guy that you use at any point in time? And then you take another step if he progresses through that and you say, all right, this kid might be able to go win the job. Then you start giving him real reps with the 1s and 2s. You start to split those up a little bit if it gets to that point. Not saying it's there yet, but it has a potential to get there because you need to get into certain situations with your team, and you need to get your team in pads. You need more live situations to be able to see how guys are going to react to things. So, but apparently Kalen DeBoer likes this group. I think his demeanor has been a little bit different. I think there's less stress on him, and not because it's the Alabama job or not because it's year 2 at Alabama or he understands what's going to come with it. I just think the personalities on the team are different, and it allows him to be a little bit more relaxed. I mean, the nicest way I know how to say it is I think there's less BS off the field with guys, with individuals. And I think there's less guys coming in asking for more money. I think there's less guys coming in saying they want it this way or that way. Less guys saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. and more guys saying, hey, what do you need us to do? How do you want us to do it? And when you get your guys in, or when you get your culture established, that's how things should go. And that's how things should look. And that's how things should feel. But you can't do that year one. Not with some of the egos and some of the alphas that you have on an Alabama football roster. You're not going to be able to go in year one and just get everybody on board with you. It's not going to happen. And that's not Kalen DeBoer's fault. The guys are set in their ways. Guys want what they want. Guys get what they get. Guys are used to certain things. And then there are guys that have been waiting for that other alpha to leave so they can establish themselves in a different way, in a certain way. So I think you'll see and hear a more relaxed Kalen DeBoer throughout this spring football. That's just my opinion, though. Just the way that I kind of think it's going to go. You guys know where we're heading right now. Flu season might still be around, but pollen season right around the corner. Make your home healthier with Trane's Clean Effects Home Air Cleaner. Removes up to 99.9% of airborne particles, including those that cause virus. 100 times more effective than standard air filters. 8 times more effective than HEPA room filters. Find a dealer near you at Trane.com. And always remember, it's hard to stop a train. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk some more Alabama football from somebody who's actually been in the uniform, played for Coach Saban, as well as talk about getting back into the hobby and some different things with collecting cards, how that happens online, starting your own business, and more next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, John. Well, we got two Johns in here now. Third hour underway, 9 o'clock, Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. App is in the App Store, iPhone, Android. Download it for free. So for those of you wondering, Yale Sweater Man will be at the game, first round, against Texas A&M. I got a text back, said, yes, sir, my son and I fly out 9:20 tonight. Going to catch the early games, too. Hoping to win, too, and meet your Tigers back here in Atlanta. Actually, there's a lot of Auburn fans that are not hoping that takes place. So Yale Sweater Man will be in attendance. I got to ask him if he's going to be wearing the sweater. Obviously. I mean, I think you kind of have to, right?
They're what, 1-1 with it, at least,
yes,
in the tournament?
John Pizzatola joining us in studio. Do you remember Yale Sweater Man last year?
I do, absolutely.
Had like the old school Y, and the sleeves were like a foot too long on each arm. You had to like push them up. We found him after they beat Auburn last year because they showed him on the broadcast for felt like an hour total. He got a ton of camera time, and we found him. I had a guy that knew him somehow and ended up getting in touch with him. He came on the show. It was hilarious.
That is pretty funny.
Talking about how he took his son to the game and how cool it was for him to do that with his son. He played football at Yale back in the day. So it's pretty cool to get him on. He says he'll be going to the first round game. So you are now joining us in studio. People know about you here on this show as the owner of Pizza Pulls, who sponsors Richard Hendricks on our show every Monday. Mm-hmm. That's just a part of you and why you're here, though. Let's go back a little bit further. You actually played football at Alabama.
I did.
For Coach Saban. And I always wonder how Coach Saban actually handled special teams, because I've been to a couple practices when he's been there. Now, when it's, punt cover on the field, like, yes, he's there, he's in it. When it's kick cover, kick return on the field, he's there, he's in it. But from a day-to-day perspective, what was Nick Saban's relationship like with special teams?
Well, he spends most of his time, obviously, around the DBs. I think that's well known. I think everybody knows he loves his DBs and his defensive guys. But yeah, I mean, you have to pay attention to this stuff. We saw it. My freshman year was the famous, the kick six. The guy was backing up at the time. Actually, you go back and watch that clip if you haven't seen it 10,000 times over the last couple of years. The guy holding the punter, who I was backing up, Cody Mandel at the time, actually misses an arm tackle down the sideline. And could have stopped the entire thing from happening. Probably would have ended up with an extra ring in my possession from that. But, after that moment, I can tell you things definitely changed. We started doing tackle drills at practice. After that, there was
hold on. People have never heard this now. So the way special teams was just kind of managed overall after the kick six was definitely different.
And not to say that it wasn't managed correctly before. I think that's just one of those moments, though, in the season where you realize, that you might need. There's 11 guys on the field. All 11 need to be able to make the play if it comes to it. So I think definitely emphasis on tackling and angles and drills like that afterwards, but
not just diving in ankles.
Not just diving in ankles, not just reaching out and missing. If you watch the clip back, it is so painful to watch. Just he just reaches his arm out and misses him. He has him in his hand, but special teams. I mean, you start every film session off with special teams film. No matter the entire team is in
team
there.
Sessions. You mean
team sessions? Yeah. You start the entire team session off watching special teams film. Partially just because, you're going to break off into groups, and that's one of the only times where you have all the guys in the groups that need to hear something from a specific coach. But yeah, I mean, it always a big emphasis. Saban was like a dad to us. He would come out on a windy day. We were outside warming up. I have to tell an easier version of this story. I got to be careful with it, but
the FCC is involved here. So
yeah,
be careful.
Absolutely. Yes. No, but he would come out, we'd be out, we'd go out. Let's say we had bad weather one day. We knew it was going to be really windy. We'd go out early and get our kicks in before practice. He would come out there with us and he'd be there watching, and choice words, of course, if you're mishitting balls or, I could do this or that better than you, whatever, just jokes. But all in all, just, it was a great experience. And, I had Bobby Williams, who he had brought from, I believe, Michigan State at the time, and he was our special teams coordinator. It was fantastic. I mean, it was definitely way more advanced than anything had been used to in high school, for sure. So
just a little, yeah.
You definitely wonder what's it going to be like when you get there.
Now, one thing that we have learned, and John Pizzatolo joining us in studio, played football at Alabama, owner of Pizza Pulls now, who you hear us talking about, sponsoring Richard Hendricks, coming on the show every Monday. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Pizzitola. One thing we have learned more about Coach Saban, I guess a little bit on the tail end, like the last 2 years, we saw more come out, but definitely now on game day, we started to see the sense of humor a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine with your name spelled the way it is, there had to be some back and forth with you and Coach Saban.
Well, I mean, I was always known as Pizza. People just called me Pizza. You know, I've just been known as Pizza Boy, Pizza Guy, Pizza John. You know, it's my latest. But you know, Pizza's always kind of just my last name. You know, Pizzatola. You know, it very strikingly
like
resembling to the word pizza. You know, people. So yeah, it just the jokes kind of write it themselves.
Did he reference you as Pizza or Pizza Boy?
I think he probably called me Pizza Boy more than he called me by my real name. More times than he ever. Yeah,
I'm going to wager he didn't know your first name.
Yeah, you probably that as a walk on. That's typically
safe bet. Yeah, safe bet.
But you know, when you're, you know, the good thing about the punter and the kicker position is you're a walk on. You're there. You know, you're not in a room with 15 guys. It's you and another guy that are the punters for the team. Maybe a third guy, that can also kick. And so, it's an interesting thing too. I mean, people really have no idea how recruiting and all that is done for kicking. It's the kicking world is so different than the rest of football, and obviously
even more now.
Now
you were at Alabama on the front end of this Australian kicker craze.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like what it was when you played to have an Australian kicker in college football. That's what it is to have an American kicker now. Like if you find an American punter, you're like, whoa.
There was one. What was the LSU guy? Brad
Wing.
Brad
Wing.
Wing.
In the UFL still. Yeah.
That guy changed everything about punting.
He was unreal.
People will look back on his game and will say, this guy, I mean, he came over from Australia, was doing the rugby style punting that really was not super popular in college.
Also had the first taunting call in SEC football history.
That's ridiculous. Let the guy, what did he do? He opened his arms.
Yeah,
he opened his arms.
Maybe like a slight high step for whatever kind of high step you could do. But yeah, if you knew him, you would get it too. Like he's
like that.
His personality is fairly large. He knew what he was doing. But yeah, it's crazy now because like you talked about the recruiting process being different. I've told the story about the kid that Tennessee has right now, and he was recruited during COVID, the punter. And the special teams coach told me this, that they had to recruit him via Zoom because they couldn't go over there and recruit him. And he had his kicking coach out there with him. And they're like, all right, just tell us what you want. And they're like, all right hash, like inside the 20, pin it to the right. And he pins like 5 down there. Like, all right, can you like go middle kick, back it up, whatever. He does a couple of those. And so Heupel's kind of like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. And he goes, well, we're not done. And he said, all right, what? He goes, like, we're going to run some routes. And they're like, what? He goes, we're going to run some routes. And they had a receiver out there, and the guy runs like a deep post, and the dude punts it to him in stride. And Heupel said, they were watching this on Zoom, and the special teams coach told me this. He said he muted the Zoom. He goes, offer him now. And Heupel walked out. He goes, get him here now. We'll take him.
I mean, that's
like ran a deep post, and the guy punted like a spiral to him in stride.
Which we call punt passing. And it's a drill that we work on, and it is easily the hardest thing to do in punting, without question. If you to spiral a ball 40 yards, 30 yards, however long, basically what we used to do is use trash cans. And you're trying to ring trash cans from 30 yards, 40 yards. To hit a guy in stride when he's running, that's another ball game, and that guy's going to be special if he's doing that.
How would you respond, John? And John Pizzatola, former Alabama punter, joining us in studio, owner of Pizza Pulls. How would you respond to I would say accusations, but since I've witnessed it, it's not accusations, it's actual fact of, let's just call it the malarkey that you guys usually do on a daily basis. Going back into the locker room to play video games or playing touch football at the stadium when you say, we got to go see what the wind's like at the stadium. So we need to do our kicking in the stadium. And then you come back and they're like, oh, man, we lost 42-50. We were playing touch football over there. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And then we get to sprints and you guys are just blowing past everybody because y'all haven't been doing anything the whole day. How would you respond to some of these, not accusations because it's real, it's facts?
It's been 10 years. This is going to get me in trouble. It's been 10 years.
That's what this is for.
This is great. You're going to love this. No, we used to, so our special teams group at Alabama, we had, Cole Mazza, J.K. Scott. These guys are NFL guys. Cole Mazza went on, played in the Chargers. J.K. was
still in the NFL.
Still in the NFL. Went to the Packers, I believe, for a little bit. Cade Foster. This is a very popular group.
Right.
Adam Griffith. And then you got your couple walk-on long snapper backups. Well, you end up with a group, a good friend of mine, Harrelson up from Vestavia. You end up with a good group of guys that, you can't kick all practice. At the end of the day, if I kick all the entire practice, if I'm swinging my leg all day long, tomorrow I do it again, and the next day I do it again. By the time the game comes, I'm not going to be able to hit a ball 45 yards, 50 yards. And so, it definitely, our favorite thing to do, and they never seemed to, we wouldn't hide from anyone. Bama's got three practice fields right next to each other. The offense is on one, the defense is on one, and then we've got our entire field to ourselves. We're over there playing. The punters were the quarterbacks, and you would have the kickers and the long snappers as teams doing routes, 1v1.
Yeah, like
1v1 routes,
7-on-7 sort of. Right.
Literally, and it was a big deal to us. We kept track all season. It was like a big second deal, and maybe that's why certain things happened to us that year, but it's not, I'm sure people were real happy to hear that. But
the day that I heard, we're talking like these are like PlayStation 2 days. The day that I overheard in the locker room on accident, I don't think they meant for me to hear it, how cool it was that they were playing PlayStation on the Jumbotron in the stadium, that somebody had hooked that up during practice. Yeah. That was about the end for me. Yeah. And I was like, y'all need a separate locker room because I don't want y'all in here anymore.
I think you earn it, though. I think you earned the right to play Madden on the Jumbotron in Bryant-Denny when you were there at 7 a.m. running stadiums that morning with the rest of the team as a backup punter, and you're Scott Cochran is screaming at you from out of a megaphone from like where the skyboxes are.
That is funny to think about, though, from the perspective of like workouts, like especially winter workouts. You guys had fourth quarter program. Just some of the stupidity that we would do. They had nothing to do with football. We talk about this at the combine, say within an offensive lineman run the 40. Like how many times they're going to run 40 in a season, much less a game, like 2 or 3 maybe on a screen or something like that.
Right.
Like you guys doing some of those workouts, completely useless.
I think so. But it's also one of those things where, you want to get respect from your teammates. You want to, not only that.
Did you ever get that? Did any of the kickers on your team
I would say
real respect from your teammates, you think?
I think the culture at Alabama was pretty interesting. I think, I came in my freshman year with Derrick Henry and Marlon Humphrey and like all these guys that are, in the pros
just
now.
Dudes.
You're thinking, this guy doesn't want to interact with me. I'm a walk-on punter, but it was totally not that way. I think
there was a specific running back that you had an interaction with, was there not?
Well, a couple. you've got Alvin. Obviously, Alvin Kamara was there, but which I'm sure you've got something good here for me.
No. I thought that there was one running back that maybe didn't know your name.
Well, there were multiple. That happens when you get there. Pretty much everybody just calls you Pizza if your name's
in the same
Pizzatola,
class. So
you know what I mean?
It's kind of part of it, but that's
yes.
I don't think that's super rare.
A guy like Derrick, you walk in and Derrick's like, hey, I don't have a car. Can you take me to Buffalo Wild Wings and
you can just have my car, Derrick.
I'll drive you over there after practice. Yeah, let's head on over. And it's like, get to know the guy a little bit, and that's it. That's you're on the team with the guys. I think the real bonding happens when we really, really did a lot of bonding, and I'll keep it at this, but in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl, both years that I was there, my freshman and my sophomore year, the entire team going out and doing things together, on our own that weren't necessarily scheduled and probably not approved.
I tell people all the time, some of my greatest memories from being a college football player had nothing to do with playing games, but being at bowl games.
Bowl games are amazing.
Because you get away from the coaches, you kind of get that little bit of freedom that's not in the little college town for the first time. We had a friggin' blast at a couple of those bowl games. Like those will stay with me forever.
Right. I mean, our freshman and sophomore year, we're in New Orleans playing the Sugar Bowl. The first year, my freshman year was the last year of the BCS. And my sophomore year, then the first year of the playoff. And we ended up in the Sugar Bowl both years. And yeah, I mean, just going down there with the boys and, you know, going out of the town maybe, you know, a couple nights before the game. And obviously you've got curfew and stuff, but, you know, getting to know each other on that level. You know, you've already spent an entire season and off season together. You're already really close. But yeah, I think that was, you know, the extra couple weeks. Cause I mean, not every team is promised that. I think that's something you earn as a team together, that last week of the year, you know, that extra bowl game. So
absolutely.
You know, I think it's a pretty cool opportunity.
All right, John Pizzatola, former Alabama punter, is going to stay in studio with us. On the other side, we're going to talk about what you do now and what you were doing before you got to this now professionally. But I want you to think about this during the break. We all make fun of kickers, punters, special teams, the whole deal. It's just kind of what we do. It's just kind of part of it. But I want you to take us behind the scenes, peel back the curtain of actual punting, something that people don't understand about it, that maybe they would look at it in a different way if they understood, hey, this is how this operates, or this is what you have to see here, or you have to do here. I want you to try to think of something like that during the break. We'll share that with the audience when we come back next on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Sure. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you tuning in. John Pizzatola, former Alabama punter, joining us in studio. It's 9:20, Wednesday, March the 19th. And I asked you before we went to break, John, something about punting that we don't know, we don't see, we don't feel, we don't have a understanding of that raises the level of difficulty. Or if we did sort of understand that, we would, I don't want to say have more sympathy for it, but maybe not be as hard on some special teams guys every now and then. What would that be about actual punting in a game?
I thought about this for a little bit, and it's kind of hard to, I think the easiest way to explain this, I mean, if you take a tennis ball, if you go out in your yard and take a tennis ball, the sweet spot on a tennis ball is about the same as the sweet spot on a football where you're trying to hit it. If you miss-hit a tennis ball and it goes flying off your foot, we used to do this drill with tennis balls, you're not going to hit a football either. The sweet spot on a football is a tiny little circle on the ball. You miss that on the top of your foot. If you miss-hit that at all, it's not going where you want it. It's the mechanics of the punt. And so you want to know, if you want to feel it for yourself, the simplest way, go get a tennis ball, take it out in your yard, and try to kick it straight.
So essentially the consistency of hitting the ball the way you should.
The ball placement on your foot when you're dropping a ball is so important. And, you tell yourself, well, I'm just going to sit there and do that all day in the room. You take a football and you just sit there and drop it to yourself all day. It's the same drop over and over again.
Trust me, we've seen you guys in warm-ups. Just dropping the ball and bouncing back up to you. Dropping how many times can you bounce the ball to yourself? We get it.
But it's cool. That's it. That's your golf swing. That's your, that is the thing that if you are off by a millimeter, because you're swinging your foot on a hinge.
Right.
Your hip is a hinge. You're swinging your leg on a hinge. It's going to be the same leg swing every time. It's the ball placement. Can you place the ball on your foot in the same spot where you're going to put it? Because at the end of the day, if I'm on the right hash, if the coach wants the ball outside the numbers on the right. If I'm on the left hash, the coach wants the ball on the left numbers, outside on the left. If you miss-hit a ball and you're on the left hash and you end up punting it to the right off the side of your foot and it goes off to the other side of the field from your coverage, it's a touchdown. But we used to say touchdown all the time. That's what
like
the guys
when you miskicked a ball.
You miskick a ball to the wrong. Everybody in your group screams touchdown, touchdown SEC. That's what they say every time because that ball is going to the house.
Yep. Because
your coverage team's expecting it in a certain place, and so I think that gets overlooked a lot. Now with field goal kicking, that's obviously different. I'm not a field goal kicker, and don't want to. That's more of a soccer kick.
But the golf swing analogy is one that I think we've heard a little bit, but probably needs to be used more because I think a lot of people go out and try to play golf. Not a lot of people go out there and say, oh, I'm going to try to punt. Unfortunately, my 7-year-old does a lot. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Stop. Like, you're not going to be a punter. So we don't need to practice that in the backyard. But that's the analogy that I think would probably most fairly help people understand the difficulty. Go to the driving range, put 10 balls on the tee. How many are you hitting straight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or how many just feel good when you hit the ball? Like Greg would sit here and tell you 10 out of 10. Okay. But normal people, probably not a lot. But the consistency's tough to have there.
In a Division I college program, though, even the walk-ons, I mean, it's 10 out of 10 all day. You're seeing guys 10 out of 10, and is this guy's 10 out of 10 better than this guy's 10 out of 10? Or, like I was telling you, during break, I'm more of a hang time guy. There's guys that will punt the ball 75 yards over somebody's head. It doesn't matter how high you punt it, But for us, I'm going to put the ball up there, way up in the air, and that's a specific type of leg swing that I'm trained on, and there's not one or two drops and leg swings that work. It's all based on your body and what works for you, and you kind of have to train based on that. It's a really difficult art to figure out for sure.
There's another aspect that I want to discuss just around the kicking world here in a moment. John Pizzatola, owner of Pizza Pulls, former Alabama punter, joining us in studio. Before we get to kind of the recruiting aspect of just this whole kicking game, what would be the most difficult punt to execute? If you're referencing turning a ball over, now they do the end over end to kind of get that wedge effect down inside the 5-yard line. Is it trying to coffin corner a ball? Like if you were to be asked to go out right now and execute a specific style punt, what's the most difficult?
I mean, right when I start thinking about it, the hair almost stands up on my neck when I start thinking about punting out of the back of your own end zone in an away game.
Not fun.
Yeah, in front of a student section.
It's a little bit different, but I mean, I've had shotgun snaps down there on the road. It changes things a little bit.
It's different, and you're like, you've got 10 guys coming at you full speed, and you don't necessarily have, in college we look for, hopefully I remember this right, it was 14.5 yards is what we would stand back, and you don't get that if the ball's on the 10-yard line.
No.
You're in the back of the end zone, and so I think that's the hardest punt, in my opinion, is when you've got shorter steps that you have to take, and you're also having to flip the field. I mean, It's a crucial point in the game. Typically, you give up points pretty easily right there if you miss hit a ball. That's the time where you don't want your drop to go off the side of your foot.
No doubt.
And then the coach is looking at you like, what do you work on all day? If that's what you're doing in the game,
How different is it when you see a punt block formation as opposed to a punt safe, or what you can tell as a team trying to set up a return? Like, they get 10 guys on the line of scrimmage, and you pretty much know they're coming at one spot or the other, and there's going to be an emphasis point there. How does the process change?
I think your absolute best guys are not going to have a difference. That's because their op time, what they call their op time, which is the time that, from the snap to the ball leaving your foot, these are calculated. There's a science behind
trust me,
this.
I used to love the strength, the assistant to the associate to the assistant strength coach out there with his stopwatch.
Yep.
Like, oh, that snap was 2.1.
Yep.
2.1, guys.
And
he's under 2.3.
And they're marking this down, and they're saving this in this giant database, and you're tracking for the entire year what your op time was, and you're tracking all the. But it's very important because that I can tell you that no punt has ever been blocked faster than this much time, or
right?
Whatever the number is. And so for a fact, like, there's no way that this punt gets blocked if you get it off in this speed.
Okay. And
you have guys that are hitting that number consistently no matter what. That's why you have teams that never have punt block. I mean, when's the last time you saw a punt block in the SEC?
We don't get it near as much as we used to.
Right. The op time is a real science now. And I think with punt block formations, I mean, again, if you've got 10 yards in front of you and you're in the back of the end zone, you're probably going, I got one step here,
right,
and I'm just going to get it off. I don't care if it goes 55, 60. I just need to get this ball off. But
that goes back to your golf swing analogy. Like, go the driving range and now try to speed up your golf swing.
Or stand in the sand.
Your golf swing takes 2.5 seconds. All right, now you have to do it in a second and a half. Go. That's not going to be a good swing.
Or go stand in the sand and try to swing the same.
Right.
Yeah, it's just you're seeing something different, and you're having to kind of adapt to it. And it's kind of, it's definitely... It's a scary situation. I played at Spain Park High School here locally, and only punt block I ever had was Oak Mountain. They busted through and jumped off sides. The referee did not call the offsides.
So kickers are penalty vultures too now.
My guys did not block because they thought it was called dead, and I got absolutely obliterated on this punt. The ball's flying in the air, and I'm looking for it, and this guy comes out of nowhere and just absolutely decleats me. But it's one of those things where. Your op time is the most important thing besides ball placement, obviously, in punting and special teams.
So another thing, John Pizzatola, owner of Pizza Pulls, joining us in studio, former Alabama punter. Another thing, I talked in the break is the recruiting process now with kickers, how wild it is, how different it is. And I shared a story with you about a certain punter at an SEC program who was pretty popular a couple of years ago. And so because he had become sort of this little cult icon figure in the SEC, and especially with his fan base, because he did some different things, we were interested in how he got to that place. Mm-hmm. The kid was at Kentucky. I've already shared the story. It doesn't make a difference now. And we asked him, what did you know about Lexington? What did you know about why Kentucky? And he was like, oh, mate, we don't have a choice.
That's a great
And we're just like, what? He goes, we don't know where we're going to go. And so there's a placement service in Australia that places these guys. And if you want to go kick, and they all want to go kick because they get the free education, now you make a little money at the same time. In most of these guys, what people don't know, they've already played a couple of years of professional football, quote unquote, and they can come kick here, and then they go back and they might make it to the NFL. That's the goal, which is real money. Or they can go back and play professional football, which is decent money, but it's not it's not NFL money.
Right.
And you got an education to take back home, and you're good for going and getting a real job if you have to. Most of these guys have played some pro ball, and they have no idea.
Right.
And most of them don't get a say. So if you go try to strong arm it, they're just like, cool, I'll put so-and-so over there.
Yeah,
I'll put John over there at at LSU, I'm not worried about. Like, you're not going to tell us what to do. And you don't go on like recruiting visits and all that stuff. Like, this is where you're going. You pack your bags, you land in Starkville, Mississippi. That's it.
Yeah.
You're going to school now. And
that's not just how it's going with the Australian guys. I mean, you're seeing that with the local guys too. I mean, that people don't realize, but the recruiting world for kicking is a completely different ball game. You're not sharing out clips of film and going and looking at some clips of his high school and seeing him kick a ball through the uprights or seeing a punt. I mean, you're going to get those videos, sure, but the way you get recruited nowadays, and at least when I was, 10 years ago even, there's 3 nationwide kicking camps, what they call them. You've got, Coles they were the ESPN one. You've got locally here, you've got one-on-one kicking. They do, it's Mike McCabe's group, great group there. That's what I trained with. But, you've got 3 groups, really, Chris Saylor kicking being the other one, that literally control all the kicking in the country. They go out, and if you're a high school kicker and you want to go to college, you have got to go and pay these camps.
Right.
You're paying them thousands of dollars. You're going to these camps. And what's happening is you're competing against these guys that are all around the country. And, these top coaches at each of these camps are buddy with all the NCAA coaches. That's how it goes.
Sure.
And they go, hey, you'll get Florida, University of Florida will call Mike McCabe. Hey, I need a punter and a kicker I need a punter this year and a kicker next year. Can you work on something for me? They'll have the whole plan ready. This guy's going here. That's that. And it's a completely different world. And if you're not winning these camps, these coaches aren't just going to put you somewhere because it's their reputation. It's their reputation. And so I was telling you the story. I mean, I graduated in 2018. I had already stopped playing my senior year, and I'd already taken a year off, and I get to go come back and train. I was working as a software engineer, but I came back and was training some local high school guys for the one-on-one crew. And McCabe, I'm out there punting still, and I'm hitting bombs. And McCabe goes, "I need a guy at Penn State grad transfer next year. Could you do it?" Just out of nowhere. And I'm thinking I've already got a job. I'm working at a company. I'm working as a software engineer in Birmingham, and and we called NCAA, tried to get, it turns out at that time they actually cared about eligibility and amateurism. And, they told me you don't have eligibility.
You could just go sue the NCAA.
Yeah, you've done your 4 years. Sorry, buddy. That's obviously not the case anymore. But back then it didn't work out. But that was kind of the, if you know somebody. And so what ends up happening is each of these schools will have a camp. So the University of Alabama has a kicking camp every year where they bring all the high school kickers in the country. And they have one of the coaches. He would always choose Chris Saylor. Saban would always have Chris Saylor, who runs Chris Saylor Kicking. He would have him come in and run the camp for him. And he says, this guy, and this guy. He puts his 3 favorite kickers from his group in front of him. And really all it is a way for Saban to be able to watch these kickers without him having to travel to your school. Yeah. He brings you to him, right? So, and you kick for him. And you win that camp, more than likely you're getting the scholarship. J.K. Scott won the camp there when I was a sophomore. I went there and did really, really well in the camp when I was a freshman, when I was a senior in high school. I think that's part of the reason why I was able to go there. And so, it's completely different than, look at this guy's film. Right. Scoring 15 touchdowns a game, doing this, whatever, or a season, whatever, it's completely different with kicking. So,
it's wild how it happens, how guys get noticed. And some of the camp stuff does happen with traditional positions. They want to see you in person, and they'll get you do some pass rush or run some routes. But the kicking stuff is just totally different. It's wild how guys end up certain places, do different things. All right, so I want to talk about your professional life now. People have heard about Pizza Pulls here on the show when Richard Hendricks joins us on Mondays. We'll discuss that on the other side, and you can tell people kind of your story, like what you did after college, what you're doing now. But John, the other John, Saber in studio, people who are looking to maybe win a little bit extra can do so by filling out a bracket here at Jocks.
Absolutely. The $1 Million Bracket Challenge is back. Pick a perfect bracket, win $1 million. It's that simple. Pick 60 or more games correctly, win $10,000. Plus, one local winner with the best bracket will score a $250 gift card to Twin Peaks. For more information and to make your picks, go to jocksfm.com and click on the $1 Million Bracket tab. Good luck. from all of us here at Jocks 94.5.
All right, we'll talk about pizza pulls and John Pizzatola's career now after being a punter at Alabama next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 9:39 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Listen online, jocksfm.com. App is in your app store, iPhone, Android. Download that for free. NIT tonight. Don't forget, 3 in-state teams in action, 6 o'clock on ESPN+. Sanford taking on George Mason. George Mason, 26-8 on the season. UAB taking on St. Joseph's. Both those teams, 22-12. Both those 6 o'clock ESPN+. And then at 7 on ESPN+, UNA, the Lions get Bradley at 26-8. So looking for our in-state teams to advance there in the NIT. Before we move to what you do now, John Pizzatola, former Alabama punter, joining us in the studio. You are a massive Alabama basketball fan.
Big time.
Like one of the more nutty Alabama basketball fans I've ever met and interacted with.
Guilty.
Just give us your thoughts on the draw, the team heading into the tournament, maybe some of the teams that are in front of them. What are your thoughts? What will satisfy you for an Alabama basketball run in this tournament?
I mean, I like the draw. I honestly, I think it's one of the best draws we could have gotten. I mean, I look at the other 2 seed draws. I think it's the best.
Okay.
I think it potentially compared to Auburn's draw is, in a 1 seed. I think Alabama's potentially got an easier road. Obviously, you've got to play Duke if you get to that point. But this team, you're down. Obviously, beginning of the season, you lose Latrell. A lot of people, Latrell Wright's a big time shooter. A lot of people, worried about the team's future after that. The team, being able to rally back and still shoot the ball as well as we do. I think this team, even as bad as we've maybe played in the last couple of weeks, I think this team could go easily to Elite Eight, Final Four. Just gotta hit our shots. I know that's a crazy thing to say about basketball. Obviously, you got to hit your shots, but this team lives and dies by the 3. And yeah, just, the matchups that we've got. I mean, I'm actually driving. I'm driving tomorrow. I'll leave tomorrow afternoon, head up to Cleveland, go watch the first 2 rounds.
Drive to Cleveland. That's a haul.
Driving Cleveland 10 hours. Yep, that's one of those things. You said I was a nutty Alabama fan.
Yes,
You'll probably see me on TV. But I think this team's got a lot ahead of them. The Grant Nelson injury is something that I'm really got my eye on right now. Really would like to see Aiden as well, Aiden Holloway, continue to hit his shots. I mean, you got just a couple things that are real keys to this team making a deep run. Auburn, on the other hand, I mean, what do you think about Auburn's?
I don't. We talked about this yesterday, John. That a lot of people look at this as this like unfair region that they got put in and how difficult it's going to be. Listen, if you're the 1 seed and you're the number 1 overall seed, I don't believe that should be your viewpoint on the bracket. You should be able to beat most of the teams that are going to be in front of you.
Right.
Are there teams that could be headaches? We've seen what A&M can do. Absolutely. Physically, Michigan State, not to mention Izzo coaching in the tournament. You have some advantages there. But I don't look at it and say, oh man, they got jobbed or this is awful. I mean, it's like Louisville, Creighton. Creighton's a good team. You should beat that team. You're a better basketball team than they are.
That's the one though that I probably circle as those 2 teams on a good day could probably get the upset done. I mean, again, a lot of things have to happen, to beat, you're going to beat a 1 seed. They've got to have an off game. Sure. Is Auburn going to have an off game down the stretch? The way they've been playing, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this, I'm looking at my bracket now. I mean, I've got Florida going the whole way here.
I think most people do.
This team is just unbelievable.
Well, we had Seth Greenberg earlier. He's like Florida's best team in the country.
We're
Jay
watching,
Bilas said Florida should be in the championship game. So.
I've never seen a team be able to bust a lead out so quickly, and your guys are just helpless. And you're talking about against top 10 teams in the country. They're not doing this against teams that are, 500.
They feel like one of those teams, like we talk about in football a lot of times, like styles win fights, that they can almost play every style.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I thought Auburn was middle of the season. Like if they needed defense, they led the nation in blocks. They got the ball out extremely well against, guards and people trying to take them off the dribble. They could use Broom in the post, very different than a lot of other post players. And then they had some perimeter game. They could win in transition, had guards who could run. And just some of that, like the rebounding feels like it's phased a little bit. Protecting the basketball, that's something they were really good with early. That's kind of gone away. You hope it's just, hey, we've wrapped this up, number 1 overall seed. We're the regular season champs. Hard to get motivated. You hope they can flip that switch now and play the kind of basketball they were then. But, I mean, A&M's a scary one, but it's not going to be on the road. It's not going to be 2 days after you clinch the regular season. So, I mean, if that one does happen, A&M does have a formula and has confidence. That would worry me. But I think at the end of the day, for the majority of the season, always been a better basketball team than A&M has. So you should go win that game.
I mean, at the end of the day, no SEC team this year should be scared of their run after what they just went through, the season they had to play. you take any SEC team on that list. For the most part, they're not going to be playing their hardest games of the year.
It's fair
in this season. They in a lot of these, like I really like Georgia in that 9-8. I like Georgia in that 9-8 over Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga.
They just did to St. Mary's.
Listen, Georgia just played one of the toughest SEC.
There's no doubt.
And they played They played very well. A lot of these. I mean, they earned their 9.
They played a lot of close games.
They earned their 9 seed. Yeah. And you look at some of these SEC teams that they had to play against, and they matched up well, or that they potentially beat. Right. Look at the teams that they're going to be playing up against, and ask yourself: is this actually going to be a harder matchup?
That's a totally fair point, and would also further your point that you made, and that a lot of people are trying to make, is that Alabama got a free pass here because you look at Mississippi State as the only other SEC team in their region.
So now you're looking at it going. So you heard what I said now, and
I'm just saying Auburn has A&M, Ole Miss in there. Florida could potentially have to deal with Arkansas and or Missouri and Oklahoma.
Yes.
So based on your logic, Florida got worked.
Florida got worked and Auburn got worked.
And
but again,
you got Georgia, you got Kentucky and Tennessee. So Tennessee, you got a tough draw as well. So yeah.
So Alabama got a gift here. If you look at the top 5 teams in the SEC and the top 5 seeded SEC teams, I believe that Alabama. I'm not saying that Alabama's got an easy road to the championship or anything like that, but I think if you compare what's the hardest game on there? Obviously Duke. It would be to get there, but the first 3 games. I mean, you've got Robert Morris, you've got the winner of Vandy, who you swept, and
St. Mary's, who I think is better than a lot of other people think for some reason.
But Vandy plays so well they could easily beat St. Mary's, and now you've got a team that Bama handled with no problem. What's the
BYU, Wisconsin are the other 2 teams that I look at and say could kind of be. BYU can shoot the ball.
I hear about BYU all the time as the team in our bracket that would be the issue,
because they like BYU. They kind of muck games up. Like they're grown-ups.
Yep.
They play just a different style of ball, and a lot of times teams don't react well to it. And it goes back to something we talked about earlier in the week, and you've heard this before: how these games are going to be called. Like, I mean, it's huge.
You don't want to get me started
for a lot of different teams.
Don't get me started on that. For sure.
This is a guy that can sit there and go down every officiating crew in the league, give you their names, what they're known for calling, what they don't call, why he doesn't want them, why he wants them. I'm just like, how do you know these guys' names? It's
season ticket holder for so long, and you see the same guys call the same terrible calls over and over again. You end up
you're like, we got Johnny Smith tonight. It's going to be a rough one. I'm like, who? What? What are you talking about? Who cares? It's a game.
It's awesome.
But you're not the only one that does that. I promise. I've heard it from some other people. I want to talk about pizza pulls for a moment. We'll do that on the other side. One more break to go. John Pizzatola is still in studio with us next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. John Pizzatola, former Alabama punter, now owner of Pizza Pulse, who sponsors Richard Hendricks on our show every Monday, joining us in studio. We do one thing in our final segment of the day every day. We might get to the bad box score of the day here in a moment, but I want John to tell us about Pizza Pulse first. I got to tell you about your CBD store. If you need a better night's sleep, you need better focus throughout the course of the day, your CBD store can help. Gut health, skincare for you or your pet, arthritis or anxiety for you or your pet. They've helped a couple pets in my household be able to get around a little bit easier when they've had the arthritis. Thankfully, your dog doesn't have that. Harley's not having any issues jumping up on tables or chairs. Good to go there. But visit one of their 3 locations if that is what you need. Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleaver, Trustful just off 459, your CBD store where good health hits home. Pizza Pulse. One reason I wanted you to come in here is there are a lot of people out there that collect cards. Baseball, football, basketball, wrestling cards getting big now. Live Golf just put out their cards through Prism, which are fantastic. People love them. You got Disney cards out now. Pokemon's still a big deal with a lot of people. And there's a whole new way to get involved with collecting cards that nobody knows about. And you just stumbled into this. And now you have your hand in a lot of different aspects of it. But how would you explain to people on a ground floor level that don't know how this works, that wanted to utilize it, kind of what it is and how they can get involved?
Yeah, I mean, just, from the top, I'll get into it. Breaking. I own Pizza Pulse Sports Collectibles. It's a sports card breaking company, and people always ask, what is breaking? After they get past the sports card, because people are like, do you mean Lamborghinis and Ferraris? I'm like, no.
Or like break dancing?
Yeah. Yeah, we're like, no, we're talking about sports cards here, but the, these boxes where you can pull a card, you're buying a box. You might go to Walmart or Target and you see a box of sports cards. Maybe it's, the latest baseball product, and Topps will make it, and you buy the box and you're going to open that box and open the packs, and you're just trying to find a rare card. Maybe it's a rare Chipper Jones or, a rare.
Wow, old school there.
Yeah. How
about a Shohei Ohtani?
A Shohei or,
okay,
I'm thinking local market here, but yeah, it's the idea would be, when they produce these cards, they make versions of the cards that you could find, by opening these packs, kind of like the Willy Wonka's golden ticket, right? Where you open one of these packs and, there's a one of one. That's the only one in the world of Shohei Ohtani of this set, or maybe you just pull the base card where there's a million of them in that set, right? And so, that kind of evolved. The boxes started getting more and more expensive. You have boxes that cost anywhere from $25 up to $10,000 for a box.
You've broken boxes that cost $10,000 before.
We have.
Not with a ton of cards in it.
Eight cards. So you're looking at multiple $1,000s per box, and you better make it back, right? But the, breaking has really turned into, let's say I want to go get into this really high end product like Prism basketball, $1,000 box. I want to go get the latest Victor Wembanyama. What they're saying is going to be the greatest ever, if his career ends up the way it's looking. But, if I want to go pull his rookie card and hold on to it for 20 years and then sell it 20 years from now for my kids' college tuition, I've got to go pull that card out of a set, like a Prism set that just came out. A company called Panini makes Prism. So you'll go buy the box. This box might cost $1,000. Well, you don't want to spend $1,000 on the entire box.
Right.
You might just want to buy the Spurs, which is who Victor Wembanyama plays for. And you might just, or you could go the Hornets for Brandon Miller, us Alabama fans here. You want to get Brandon Miller's rookie cards, you go buy these cards and you end up, I'm hearing.
Yeah, you got about a minute.
Okay, you end up, you'll buy into the break for cheap. You can buy the spot for $30 instead of buying the whole $1,000, or, you could buy the Spurs for $30 and then, there it is. You get a Victor Wembanyama. If it comes out, it's yours because you bought the Spurs. So you can buy an entire team and kind of deal with chasing that, those cards out of that set. So breaking has really kind of expanded the sports card world into where it's accessible to everybody.
Made it more affordable when it's not affordable, essentially.
Get a super expensive product that's going to be worth a college tuition one day. There you go. We'll
tweet the link out to Pizza Pulls. They're on Fanatics Live. If you are into the hobby, want to get back into the hobby, want to check out breaking with sports cards, collectible cards, they do it right there at Pizza Pulls. John, thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having us.
We learned a lot about punting today, and you don't do that often on this show.
Yeah.
We're back tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m. 3-man front coming at you next.